Stress Relief Bible. Step-by-step guide for quick stress relief, anxiety, anger, frustration, self-sabotage. Written by Dr. Michelle Smith. Terms and conditions. Legal notice. The publisher has strived to be as accurate and complete as possible in the creation of this report, notwithstanding the fact that he does not warrant or represent at any time that the contents within are accurate due to the rapidly changing nature of the Internet. While all attempts have been made to verify information provided in this publication, the publisher assumes no responsibility for errors, omissions, or contrary interpretation of the subject matter herein. Any perceived slights of specific persons, peoples, or organizations are unintentional. In practical advice books, like anything else in life, there are no guarantees of income made. Readers are cautioned to rely on their own judgment about their individual circumstances to act accordingly. This book is not intended for use as a source of legal, business, accounting, or financial advice. All readers are advised to seek services of competent professionals in legal, business, accounting, and finance fields. Introduction. For many of us, stress is the single biggest blight on what would otherwise be a happy lifestyle. Stress has a host of negative effects, not only on our bodies, but on our minds, and it's something almost all of us experience too much of. Look at yourself right now and answer honestly. Do you feel stressed? Do you feel as though there isn't enough time in the day to do all the things you want to do? Do you feel constantly as though you're just about managing to stay afloat? Are there deadlines and events looming on the horizon for you like black clouds? Do you feel as though it could all come crashing down at any moment? Perhaps you also feel as though your heart rate is higher than it should be. Maybe you're not getting the quality of sleep you need because you're lying awake listening to it thud and thump. If this is the case, then your lifestyle is compromised. If you have constant chronic stress, then you will also find that your immune system is suppressed, that your blood pressure is high, that you aren't sleeping properly, and that you're more likely to become distracted and or have an accident. Even your digestion will be negatively affected by your stress, resulting in symptoms of malnutrition potentially. This is what it means to be living constantly with stress, and this is what many of us now consider to be normal. So, how do you break the cycle and get your life back on track? This audiobook is going to provide you with a complete blueprint for stopping stress in its tracks and escaping it once and for all. What you will learn. Specifically, here is what you will learn throughout the course of this book. What stress is, what causes it, and how you can prevent it. Why it's so important that you break the cycle. Why you might be addicted to stress. How to manage your workload to decrease stress. Tricks to improve productivity while working less. Habits that are damaging your happiness and stress levels. Habits you can introduce to fix your emotional well-being and workload. Techniques such as the Pomodoro technique. Tools such as cognitive behavioral therapy. How to use meditation to reduce stress reactions. How to set your priorities and fix your routine. A little bit about stress. Before we dive right in, let's first look at what stress actually is, who it affects, and how widespread it is. Biologically, stress is actually a healthy and normal response to any stressor, defined as a trigger that causes stress. So that's a bit of a circular explanation. The purpose of stress is to prime our body for action in the face of a physical threat. In other words, this is a kind of action mode that our body kicks into, And in the wild, stressors would have been things like predators, fires, or aggressive members of our own species. What happens to us physically then is that our sympathetic nervous system kicks in and triggers the pituitary glands to release a number of hormones and neurotransmitters, such as adrenaline, norepinephrine, dopamine, and cortisol. These chemicals, in turn, trigger our bodies to direct blood away from less immediately necessary functions, such as our immune system and our digestive system, and to our brains and muscles. Meanwhile, they increase focus, awareness, and bring on feelings of anxiety and danger. Our heart rates also increase, and ultimately we end up far more on edge and wired. Even our feeling of pain is reduced, and our blood thickens to encourage clotting in case of injury. This is what is known as the fight or flight response. Today, these things are still stressors, and getting into an argument with a friend will still trigger that stress response. At the same time, though, we now face many more stressors that are things we perceive as threats. These stressors include angry bosses, empty bank accounts, upset partners, deadlines, and public speaking. And this is where the problem comes in. Acute stress in the wild would have been useful because it would have allowed us to run faster, to spot danger more efficiently, and even to punch harder. Once we got away, our parasympathetic nervous system would kick in, putting us into the rest and digest state, and our body would recover. But when your stressor is something abstract like debt that doesn't just go away, it means you're constantly in an aroused state. It means your immune system is constantly suppressed, and it means your digestion is constantly impaired. It also means your brain is constantly producing stress hormones, which can risk leading to depression and potentially adrenal fatigue. In short, stress makes you unhappy. It prevents you from resting and sleeping properly. It causes poor digestion, and it leaves you susceptible to illness. This is no joke. Stress is killing people and ruining lives. Everyone experiences stress at some stage in their life. It is a way for us to know that something in our life is causing us concern and is affecting how we are thinking and feeling. Stress is not always bad. In small doses, it can help you perform under pressure and motivate you to do your best. But when you are constantly running in emergency mode, your mind and body pay the price. Stress statistics. But just how widespread is this problem? Well, to highlight the severity of stress, it's worth noting that work-related stress causes 10% of strokes via raised blood pressure. 3 out of 4 doctor's visits are related to stress, and stress can raise your risk of heart disease by 40%. Stress is also ruining our diets. We eat for comfort, but also when our body uses up blood sugar, which it does when we're stressed, cortisol makes us store more fat, and as such, 40% of stressed people will overeat or eat unhealthily. Another 44% of people lose sleep due to stress. 66% of all doctor visits are for stress-related symptoms. 50% categorize their stress as moderate to high. 24% categorize their stress as severe. And if you thought stress was making you more productive, think again. Stress blunts creativity and even physically shrinks the brain. It's thought that stress-related problems cost the U.S. a whopping $300 billion every year. That's $100 billion more than obesity. 44% of Americans say they are feeling more stressed year on year, and 1 in 5 say they experience extreme stress. So where is all this stress coming from? The top causes, according to Statistics Brain Research Institute, are job pressure, money, health, relationships, poor nutrition, media overload, sleep deprivation. And it's easy to see how work might be causing all these problems. Research shows that there has been a 50% increase in productivity over the last 20 years, while wages have remained the same. The average American will work an extra 6 hours every week for no pay. In other words, we're literally working ourselves to death, and ironically, it's only increasing our workload. Could you be addicted to stress? The first thing to acknowledge before we start trying to fix your stress is that you may well be addicted to it. This might seem rather counterintuitive, seeing as most of us hate feeling stressed. But the sad reality is that our modern lifestyles are designed in such a way as to make stress almost a requirement. As we have already seen, the average American is happy to work for the equivalent of 6 extra hours without pay. Why would we willingly subject ourselves to this? The answer is that we are very much rewarded for behaviors that lead to stress. We are rewarded when we take on extra work, when we beat the deadline, and when we don't complain about our workload. This could even lead to a pay raise. What's more, some elements of stress can actually feel quite good. When we are stressed, it can make us feel more focused. It can make time seem to pass more quickly, which is handy, seeing as most of us find our jobs boring, and it can help us to feel a sense of accomplishment. Actually, being stressed produces the reward hormone dopamine. This is the same hormone that makes things like eating and even taking drugs addictive, and it's released in even greater quantities when we complete a task on time or tick something off that to-do list. Another problem is that stress tends to creep up in small increments. We start off with a reasonable workload, and over time we become desensitized to that amount of work. We become more efficient at completing those tasks too, and eventually this puts us in a position where we feel able to take on more and more. Going backwards suddenly feels too easy, and the only real option we have is to keep adding more and more to our pile. The result is that you become actually addicted to your workload and unable to switch off. Society also places a ton of pressure on us to work harder. We celebrate people who work harder for the common good, and we punish people who are perceived as lazy. Being called work shy is one of the worst things that anyone can call us, and generally we're made to feel awful if we don't keep taking on bigger and bigger responsibilities. In reality, this is something we should look at critically. Are the heroes really those people who are willing to work longer hours without pay? Is it really such an amazing feat to spend more time filing papers? Is it really so bad to want to spend your life doing things that you enjoy? A culture of working harder, longer, and faster has emerged because it's good for the country as a whole, but it is not good for the individual. And it is not wrong to put your health, your happiness, and your family ahead of corporate objectives. Next time someone calls you work shy, say, "Hell, yeah." And finally, technology is somewhat to blame for our current state of hyperarousal and stress. The role of technology is to make life easier for us. In other words, it's supposed to be a force multiplier, meaning that theoretically it should allow us to accomplish more with less work. So you would think that this would mean we could go home earlier. Only there's a problem. The competition also has that same technology, and as such, you now need to put out even more. Technology has allowed us to do more in less time, but in doing so, it means we're now required to do much more in total. Throw in the fact that we're now constantly connected and always reachable by our bosses, clients, and colleagues, and you have a recipe for serious work-related stress. Chapter 1. Signs you may be addicted to stress. So let's say for a minute that you are addicted to stress. How would you even know if that was the case? Here are a few signs that stress addiction might be a problem for you. You feel as though you thrive under pressure. You are constantly checking your phone or computer for updates and emails. You often leave work late. You can't switch off. You struggle to relax and don't know what to do with your spare time. You enjoy spending all of your time on your business. Consequences for failing to break your stress addiction. Stress addiction isn't something that everyone reading this will be familiar with, but it's certainly something a great deal of people struggle with. The reason that we raise this issue right at the start of this book, though, is that it can seriously hold you back from recovery. Being aware of your stress addiction is the first step to overcoming it, without meaning to sound too much like a cliche. Stress addiction, you see, will make many of the things we describe seem rather unappealing. If you have a true stress addiction, then you might find yourself being resistant to many of the ideas we'll discuss and put forward. What's important is to recognize that this in itself is a symptom. You need to rise above that desire to do more and more if you want to stand a chance at overcoming stress once and for all. The consequences of ignoring a stress addiction. Perhaps the easiest way to put you in the right mindset here then is to break down the risks and the dangers associated with allowing this behavior to continue. First of all then, recognize that stress addiction is ultimately bad for productivity. While you might think otherwise, the reality is that you'll get more done in the long run if you take time off in the short term. Remember how we pointed out that the U.S. is losing $300 billion a year to stress? That's a serious amount of money lost unnecessarily, and the same also applies on an individual basis. That's because we need to find opportunities to rest and recover. The body works in cycles and in seasons, and if we don't acknowledge that, then we will eventually burn out. Remember adrenal fatigue? Remember that your immune system is compromised when you don't give yourself a break? If you keep going at 100%, then eventually you will collapse, and in doing so, you will lose days, weeks, or even months of productivity. A good analogy for this is working out. While exercising regularly is great for your health, your confidence, and your happiness, working out too much without adequate rest will eventually lead to overtraining. This is again caused partly by adrenal fatigue as well as other factors, and results in a person becoming weaker, tired, and unable to work out at all. Alternatively, it can leave them very susceptible to illness. Either way, the smart bodybuilder or athlete knows the importance of back-off weeks, where they give themselves a chance to recover. If you want to get the most out of yourself, then you need to be methodical. There is a great Chinese saying which is, walk or run, don't wobble. What this means is that the most efficient way to travel the furthest distance is to walk until you run out of energy, rest, and then go on again. It's a mistake to wobble push yourself to the brink, as ultimately you won't be traveling very fast or giving yourself a chance to recover. And even if you didn't eventually collapse from the strain of a stress addiction, you would find that you weren't able to do your best work anyway. When you're stressed, you become tired, you become more likely to make mistakes, and you lose your passion for what you're doing. What's more, stress prevents creativity, and countless studies have shown that when we're too motivated, we get a kind of tunnel vision that prevents us from coming to creative solutions to problems. A great example of this can be seen with something called the candle problem. Here you're given a candle and a box of tacks and asked to attach that candle to the wall so that it can burn there and be used as a lamp. If you motivate one group to find the answer quickly, applying a kind of stress, then they will spend longer attempting the obvious solution of trying to attach the candle to the wall using the tacks. This is actually the incorrect solution, however, and the right approach is instead to attach the box itself to the wall and stand the candle in it. The solution requires the subject to overcome a cognitive bias called functional fixedness, and the only way they can do this is by relaxing and taking their time to think about all the options. So, in other words, even if you could carry on working full steam ahead indefinitely, it still wouldn't be the best overall choice for your business. It just seems that way now. Chapter 2. The Consequences of Working Too Hard. It goes deeper than that, though, too, because even if you could work your best without breaking and without consequence, you really shouldn't. For starters, keeping your immune system suppressed this long and your heart rate elevated that long can very easily lead you to an early grave. And when you're lying in hospital, how will you feel knowing that you're leaving your family behind and missing out on your twilight years, all because you had a big contract that month? Likewise, if you're constantly stressed, you'll risk mental health problems. Depression, anxiety, and even thoughts of suicide can come from chronic stress, and this will prevent you from enjoying anything else in your life. If you're constantly at or thinking about work, you won't be there for your family, and you'll damage their happiness and your relationship with them too. Ultimately, if you're working all the time and addicted to stress, then you have reached the point where you are living to work instead of working to live. What's the point in money if you never have any time to enjoy it? What's the point of living if your only real purpose is to ensure parcels arrive on time? Is that how you want to be remembered? Is that how you want to die? Chapter 3. Impacts of Stress. Stress management is an essential step for you to take once you have determined you are facing stressful situations in your life, regardless of the cause. Although there are helpful types of stress that enable you to cater this added burst of energy into something positive and productive, it is not recommended for your body. Long-term stress can specifically produce negative impacts on your health and is recognized to deteriorate your health faster than some other diseases. Furthermore, stress can reduce your capacity to perform and function well, either at school or in the workplace. Therefore, stress isn't something to be dismissed. Aside from the personal impacts you can experience from stress, it also affects how you deal with the environment and the people in your lives. It is important to first know the causes of stress, then stress management techniques to achieve stress relief. Knowing your stress level. When it comes to stress management, determining the source of stress is often not enough. For people who are often stressed, keeping a stress journal is highly recommended in order for you to monitor the different levels of stress you are experiencing and what effects it produced. This is an effective way for you to closely study your levels of stress, its triggers, and for you to pinpoint exactly what you can do to relieve yourself from it. Starting on stress management. Now that you know the effects that stress can do to you, getting started on a stress management method is necessary. Managing your stress helps you regain control over your life instead of being consumed by the amount of stress you had to deal with. Here's how you can get started. Determine what causes stress in your life. Think of ways that you can reduce that stress. Formulate your stress management technique for relieving stress. Steps to take. One thing you need to keep in mind is that you cannot expect to totally get rid of stress. It is a process wherein your initial goal would be to reduce the amount of stress in your life until you eventually get rid of it. The following ideas will help you establish a stress management method that could work for you. Improve your time management skills. Most of your stress in life is a result of your inability to squeeze in your plans within the time available to you. So creating your schedule will enable you to achieve more in less time. When creating your schedule, put the most important items on top of your list. Study the way you react with stress. This requires your honesty to determine whether your own coping mechanisms are effective or not. If not, then look for other means. Take care of your body. This is often the most neglected aspect of stress management. Get enough rest and eat well. Your health is the most vital factor in stress management. Change your mindset. Oftentimes, stress is produced only by your mind. So if that is the case with you, then adopting a new perspective might reduce your stress levels. Chapter 4. Analyze where your stress stems from. A lot of stress comes from your work, but that's only one part of the story for many people. Other common causes of stress include money, health, relationships, and looming deadlines. Stress can also be caused by even more abstract things, such as feeling like you lack purpose or feeling uncertain about whether you're doing the right thing. Stress can come from loneliness, from boredom, and sometimes it can even seem to have no cause at all. The first thing you need to do to start combating stress then is to identify where it is coming from. A lot of the most popular treatments for stress seem to focus on dealing with the symptoms, but actually this is ignoring the bigger problem and the more straightforward answer. If you are stressed, then 9 times out of 10, something is causing that stress. Stress is unacceptable. You need to remove that source of stress. It's simple math, and it starts with identifying the problem. How to find the cause? So, how do you find the cause of your stress and identify what needs to change in your life? In some cases, it will be obvious. For instance, if you are stressed about work, then you will likely know this. If it's your debt, then that might also be pretty obvious. But perhaps you're overlooking some of the smaller things too. Maybe you're so focused on the stress of that wedding planning that you've missed the fact that you're also stressed about work. Maybe you're missing the amount of stress that is coming from other things, like your painful knee. Sometimes focusing on the small things can give us much more bandwidth for dealing with the big things, and that can ultimately lead to us being much more able to cope and really being able to make headway. Something to consider doing then is keeping a list. Write everything down you can think of that is causing you any amount of stress. Even if it's a small thing, add it to the list. Furthermore, make sure that you are constantly adding to the list. Keep a notepad with you to hand, and every time something else comes up that you find stressful, or even just that is taking up your time, note it down. Stress is very closely linked to time, so listing all your jobs and things here makes sense too. Think about your routine too. Is your commute causing you stress? Is the queue at Starbucks for your morning coffee causing you stress? Is talking to that awkward colleague causing you stress? Another trick is to break down the large things that are causing you stress into multiple smaller items. So don't just write work, but break that down into lots of smaller things under that broad heading. Work stress might well incorporate the stress of deadlines, the stress of colleagues, the stress of your boss, the stress of your uncomfortable chair, the stress of your commute, the stress of your untidy desk. Even if you can't change the biggest items on that list, changing those smaller items can do you a world of good. Chapter 5. Benefits to Stress Relief. If you cannot fully understand the importance of stress management, then try thinking in reverse. Imagine yourself not suffering from the negative impacts of stress. Without the negative results of stress in your life, then a person is able to enjoy a more satisfying and stress-free life. To sum it up, here are the benefits that can be derived with practicing an efficient stress management method. 1. It improves your overall health status. 2. You are able to assume a more positive attitude and outlook in life. 3. It increases your productivity since you are able to focus clearly on your tasks. 4. You have better control over your emotions and how you respond to them. 5. And more importantly, you reduce or eliminate stress in your life. Work-life balance. Work-life balance is adjusting your day-to-day activities to achieve a sense of balance between work life and personal life. Some benefits of a healthy work-life balance include reduced stress levels at work and at home, greater focus and concentration, higher levels of job satisfaction, the opportunity to participate more fully in family and social life, more time to pursue personal goals and hobbies, improved health. How to maintain good work-life balance. Balancing the demands of a busy lifestyle is not an easy thing to do, but is best managed by regularly reviewing and assessing your priorities. Here are a few ideas to help you strike a good work-life balance. Set goals around what you value highly. Manage your time effectively. Review job activities, priorities, and success factors. Create a boundary between balancing work and personal time. Leave work at work where possible. Build resilience and have a positive attitude. Avoid stress, mental exhaustion, and burnout. Fatigue affects your ability to work productively. Maintain a healthy lifestyle. Look after yourself, eat well, sleep well, and set aside a little time to exercise or pursue an activity that you enjoy. Enlist a good support system. Learn to delegate. We all need a little help sometimes. Enjoy your work. Chapter 6. Signs and Symptoms of Stress. Mental. Trouble thinking clearly. Memory problems. Can't concentrate. Low attention span. Poor judgment. Anxious or racing thoughts. Constant worrying. Emotional. Moodiness. Easily upset or hurt. Irritability or short temper. Agitation, unable to relax or keep still. Feeling overwhelmed. Sense of loneliness and isolation. Depression or general unhappiness. Physical. Tightness in muscles. Aches and pains. Headaches, trembling, sweating. Nausea. Dizziness. Chest pain, rapid heartbeat. Loss of appetite. Lack of sleep, dreams, nightmares. Behavioral. Eating more or less. Sleeping too much or too little. Isolating yourself from others. Procrastinating or neglecting responsibilities. Using alcohol, cigarettes, or drugs to relax. Nervous habits, examples nail biting, pacing. These signs and symptoms of stress can also be caused by other psychological and medical problems. If you experience any of these, it is important to see your doctor, as they can help you determine whether or not your symptoms are stress-related. Causes of stress. The situations and pressures that cause stress are known as stressors. There are two types of stressors: external, where outside forces act on us; internal, self-generated. We have some control over it. External causes of stress: major life changes, work, relationship difficulties, financial problems, being too busy, children and family. Internal causes of stress: self-generated. Inability to accept uncertainty, doubt, negative self-talk, unrealistic expectations, perfectionism, lack of assertiveness. Figure out what you can quit cold turkey. Once you have listed your stress causes, grade them for severity and grade them for how easily fixed they are. And then make a massive commitment to removing as many items as you can, and especially the biggest stressors. Remember, your health and happiness are the priority here. There is no circumstance under which you should be making yourself miserable every single day. If your job is making you that unhappy, quit. That might sound overly simplistic, but it really is that simple. Of course, you might need to put some things in place first. You might need to apply to some other jobs, for instance, or you might need to save some money. But ultimately, this should be your goal. And if you're quitting your job and looking for something new, then don't aim for something that's going to be equally stressful. Don't make the mistake of equating success with your career and with your responsibilities. Many people would never think of giving up a job as an accountant for a large firm or a trader in order to become a librarian or a tree surgeon. But even if it means a salary cut, what's wrong with doing a job that's peaceful and less high pressure? If you're happier, you're happier. That's success. And there's no reason that you can't have multiple projects on the go. Working in a quiet grocery store? Then why not run a website in your free time? Why define your success by your career alone? Why only work on something creative when you're being told to do it by someone else? This all requires a shift in your thinking, but it's well worth doing. Likewise, you can also pick and choose other elements of your lifestyle to remove or add to change to your stress levels. Are you constantly having arguments with your partner? Then consider taking a break, seeing a counselor, or breaking up. Are you stressed because you have no money? Then try moving into a smaller house, or even moving back in with your parents if you're single. Stressed about the commute? Move nearer to work. Find the things that are causing you stress, and then remove them. Once you've ticked off all the big things you can tick off, you can also look at the smaller things. Let's say your job is stressful, but you can't or won't give it up cold turkey. Well, that's fine. Just use the advice from before to break your workflow down into all the individual elements that are causing you stress, and then focus on dealing with those things. So, for instance, you might find that you're stressed because you have that commute. Well, would life be better if you cycled instead? Or how about moving your working day an hour forward or back if your boss will allow? Maybe you could look into a lift share. Maybe you could even work from home a couple of days. Stressed about a particular colleague? Speak with your manager about being moved. Stress about your workload? Then ask for help and let someone take some of that work off your hands. Stressed because you hate the chair you sit in? Talk to HR. By attacking these smaller things, you can make your life considerably less stressful via incremental improvements, and that will leave you with more mental energy to tackle the much bigger problems. The same goes for other causes of stress too, if you're able to break them down. Look at the tiny reasons you're getting more stressed and wasting time. Do you hate vacuuming? Get a robotic vacuum cleaner. You just removed one little stressor and made others easier to cope with. Hate ironing? Get a steamer. Chapter 7. Scaling Back Stress for the Self-Employed. If you run your own business, then you will belong in a very separate bracket when it comes to workplace stress. For you, stress is much more within your control, and that's both a very good thing and a very stressful thing in its own right. Unfortunately, self-employment happens to appeal to a very particular stress-addicted type of personality. If you are self-employed, or if you run your own business, then you are probably the sort of person who is highly focused on success and who is willing to do almost anything to get there. That's great for your bank balance, but not so great for your heart. When you run your own business, you can set your own working hours. That means you can have time off whenever you want it, but it also means you can always be earning more money if you keep working. The buck stops with you, and there may even be other people depending on your ability to run your business and earn money. The point is, this can be a very highly strung situation to be in. But this isn't how you should view being self-employed, if at all possible. Instead, you should try and take the view of the lifestyle design crowd. Lifestyle design is basically all about thinking about the lifestyle you want first, and then changing the way you work to suit that. What is your end goal, and what's the fastest way of getting there? Too many people will work insanely hard, now thinking that this will allow them to someday earn enough to live a life of luxury. But what if you could instead optimize your workflow so effectively that you would be able to earn a living in a few hours a day? You might not be changing the world, but now you'd have so much more free time to do what you want. And if you run your own business, then this dream is eminently within your grasp, especially if you work online. Scaling back, automation, efficiency. The first way you can start to avoid stress in your workplace is to scale back. One way to do this is to look at the 80-20 principle, also called Pareto's Law. The idea here is that in most businesses, 80% of the profit and the work comes from 20% of the clients. So if you have 10 clients, probably 2 of them are your big clients who provide you with steady work. This isn't an exact science, but is often true. So how can you make your life a little easier and a little less stressful? Simple. Stop working for the other 8 clients. Now you have fewer emails to answer, fewer complaints to deal with, fewer workloads to juggle. You instead have just a couple of great colleagues you can work for who provide lots of steady work. How good would it be to start your working days with a to-do list of 2 big items instead of 100 smaller ones? Another tip is to scale back in terms of your operation. If you have 20 websites, lots of members of staff, and lots of expensive overheads like premium software that you don't really need, then try just cutting back on it. You can even make your business more streamlined by focusing more precisely on providing specific services. So, for example, if you're currently a writer, how about you instead become a technology writer? Instead of being a web designer, how about being a logo designer? All this will give you a greatly simplified business model and workflow with far less expense and far less to think about. Outsourcing and automating. Likewise, you should also think about outsourcing your work and automating it as much as possible. Outsourcing simply means getting other people to do your work. Outsourcing is great, though, because you aren't actually hiring new members of staff and giving yourself more to juggle that way. Instead, all you're doing is asking a third party to complete a part of your work that you perhaps don't enjoy as much as the rest. A great way to do this is by using a VAS. VAS stands for Virtual Assistant Service and is a very popular tool used by a number of online entrepreneurs. The general idea here is that these services can take on a range of tasks online as long as they don't require them to be physically present. So they can arrange meetings, make bookings, order products, and send emails. They can also handle research on your behalf, create spreadsheets, and much more. And best of all, most VAS companies are based abroad and charge a very small amount, as little as $3 for an hour's work in some cases. Their English might suffer as a result, though, so do keep this in mind when assigning tasks. The problem with many entrepreneurs is that they carry a belief that they can and should do everything themselves. In case you hadn't already guessed, this isn't a healthy attitude, and isn't terribly accurate either. Avoid this mistake by outsourcing the parts of your job you don't like. You'll get more done, and at the same time, you'll have a more pleasant average working day. The next tool we mentioned was automation, and this is equally just as valuable and just as key. Automation basically means using systems, software, and other things to complete tasks without any input. An example of automation would be using an assembly line to create cars. Once upon a time, all cars were constructed by hand individually, but now they're put together by robots on an assembly line. You can do the same thing with all kinds of other businesses and smaller aspects of your business. For instance, if you currently handle your own social media, this is something that can take a great deal of time. A good solution is to use a tool like IFTTT, IFTTT, which, for example, can link your Facebook and Twitter accounts so that a post to one is reflected on the other. This way, you have automated a big aspect of your workflow, thus dramatically reducing your daily load and your stress. Similarly, you might be able to find software that can handle other parts of your job. While they are no longer in use, a good example of this is an article spinner. Article spinners allowed writers to create multiple versions of the same article so that they could publish it multiple times online. The idea was flawed, as the end product was very low quality, and there were copyright issues, as many users abused the software. However, in principle, this type of automation could help to save countless hours and a lot of stress. Don't have any options for automating your business? Then think about how aspects of your workflow could be automated, and then consider hiring a software company to create a custom program for you. Note as well that automation is once again something that can help you in other areas of your life. The example we used earlier of the robotic vacuum cleaner, for example, that's very much automation at its most basic. Living the dream, passive income. Lifestyle design is a big topic among online entrepreneurs now, and for good reason. But while stripping your business back and automating, outsourcing your workload is one way to achieve the kind of stress-busting results you're looking for, an even better scenario is that you have your own passive income model. And even if you're not self-employed, this can still very much apply to you as a way to remove some of the stress that comes from money problems or worrying about work. So, what is a passive income? Simply put, it's an income that you generate passively, that is, without work. So, passive income means that you're earning a profit even when you're sleeping or when you're on holiday. It means that your entire business is automated and you don't need to do anything to make that money. Does this sound too good to be true? Sure it does, but that doesn't mean that it's not true. And in fact, hundreds of thousands of people online are earning passive income right now. Income that either supplements the income they're getting from their jobs or that are using as their main source and their career. So what might a passive business model look like? A very simple example would be the following. Find an affiliate product. This is a product you promote online using a special unique link. Then, all sales that come through your link earn you a commission. This can very often be as much as 60% of the full amount. Create a very simple web page promoting the product, or create an online shop using a program like Shopify. You'll need to pay a little to keep this online, but it won't be lots. Set up advertising through Google AdWords or Facebook. These ads will only cost you money when someone clicks on them, and you'll only pay out a few cents each time they do. Go to sleep. So why does this business model work? Simple. You now have a store selling a product that earns you anything from $30 to $500. You're only paying for advertising when someone clicks, and in all likelihood, a fair percentage of people who click will earn you money. That then means you'll earn more than the cost of hosting your website, and as such, you're turning a profit. As you gain more capital, you can invest more into ads and earn even more. This business will now completely run itself, and you are now earning money while you sleep. This is a completely stress-free way to earn money, and it's only one of many examples of passive income models. Uploading an app is another example. So is uploading a Kindle book. Chapter 8. The Importance of Stress Management. Periodic fluctuations in stress level are a normal and natural part of being alive. As long as we have needs and wants, it's not really possible to completely eliminate stress from your life. However, when stress levels become increasingly high and chronic, they could easily become a detriment to your health and well-being. Stress can cause a number of physical, mental, and emotional issues in any person at any age. Stress may be the underlying source of an ailment or the primary interference in your ability to naturally heal and function. Again, there is no realistic way to totally remove stress from your life in the long term, but strengthening your ability to minimize and manage stress is just as important as proper nutrition, physical activity, and access to essential health treatments. Stress management is part of staying well and thriving. Since stress affects us all differently, there's no one universal approach to stress management. The key is to find a stress management technique or combination of techniques that are effective and healthy for you. Some means of relieving stress can actually be counteractive to a healthy lifestyle, including excess eating or substance abuse. Identifying and avoiding such choices are equally important, as unhealthy stress relievers can create a cycle of reoccurring trauma and deterioration of your quality of life. Stress management should be based in behaviors and choices that are essential to healthy living. If you feel you are dealing with an excess of chronic stress, or you are feeling discontent and experience symptoms such as anxiety and depression, digestive or respiratory issues, hypertension and heart disease, weight gain, and issues with mental processing, it's likely you need to develop or reevaluate your stress management techniques. Just a few healthy stress management techniques to try in the face of heightened and chronic stress. Get adequate sleep or adjust your sleep cycle. If you find you're not getting adequate sleep or you've started sleeping excessively, both are possible responses to stress and can perpetuate a stress management problem. Eat a healthy diet. Diets with sufficient vitamins and minerals, fiber, protein, and healthy carbohydrates allow you to handle stress and balance chemical response to certain triggers. Get physical activity through exercise. Exercise is a natural mood booster and stress reducer that allows for better body function, heightened confidence, and a number of other wellness benefits. Focus and build upon the positive. Find new ways to laugh more, enjoy hobbies, and strengthen your personal friendships and relationships with your family. Positive connection with others and actively taking steps to enjoy your life are healthy ways of reducing stress. Seek a work-life balance. Work and family life play high demands on everyone, but limiting your commitments to allow for personal growth and wellness is vital for balancing stress levels. If you are putting your best efforts forward and you are still having difficulties managing stress, there could be another issue that's interfering with your body's natural ability to process and manage stress. A chiropractic examination can help determine if there are any physical causes for your distress. Chiropractic treatments are also a safe and highly effective way to release tension and stress and serve as a reliable resource for health and well-being. Stress and relaxation techniques. Stress is a given for everyone, as we all accept. Stress management, on the other hand, is done by relatively few and may take a change in the way you think about stress. A classic technique points to relaxation training, including using breathing to calm the physical body. Exercise to release the natural endorphins is another proven technique. Attention to muscle relaxation and exercise should be at the heart of your stress management skills. However, let's go a little further into the interactions between thoughts and emotions in order to get a more complete picture of improving stress management. Chapter 9. The Role of Thoughts in Controlling Stress. The negative emotions that arise surrounding stressful events are what cause you to feel stressed. In turn, emotions are totally influenced by your thoughts. Your thinking is the major cause for you to feel stressed and overwhelmed. Try a little experiment the next time you recognize that you are feeling stressed. First, identify what is causing the stress. Then try thinking positive about that stress. If you are able to think positively, does that change your emotional reaction? It may take some practice to actually change your thinking. Push the change your thinking concept a bit further. Turn emotions down a few notches by using the "so what" test. This idea requires an honest assessment of what is truly important to you. It is not difficult to understand why stress increases when you set your sights on a goal. For example, should you recognize that an event is stressful because you are convinced that if you don't reach this goal, others will think less of you. It may be very important to you that others see you as an example of success. Now ask yourself, so what? If I fall short, does that really mean I'm a total failure? Or are there other perspectives that I need to take into account? Lifestyle changes for less stress. If you have taken all the advice in the above chapter to heart, you should now be living with a lot less stress. Or at least you should be on your way to living less stressfully. Basically, you now have an idea of all things, both big and small, that are causing you stress, and you've started to remove those stressors from your daily routine. While there will likely be some causes of stress in your life, even knocking just a few off the list with automation and outsourcing will make life that much more enjoyable and that much more bearable. But this is only one piece of the puzzle. Equally important, for instance, is the way you look after yourself and your health. If you have bad health, then not only is this a source of stress in itself, but it also makes you much more likely to experience stress, as your body will be less capable of dealing with problems. When you have tons of energy, a healthy body, and a well-rested mind, then life becomes much easier. In this chapter, then, we will look at some of the things you can start doing to significantly improve the stress in your life. Cutting out caffeine. The first thing you're going to do to start experiencing less stress is to cut out caffeine. This is something that won't sit easily with a lot of people reading this, but it's actually one of the biggest and easiest things you can do to drastically improve your stress levels. Why? Well, the first thing is to recognize that caffeine is essentially stress in a mug. This is what it is designed to do. That's because caffeine increases many of the same neurotransmitters as stress. When you drink coffee, the caffeine will block the adenosine receptors in your brain. Adenosine is responsible for making us sleepy, and as such, this simple change will make you feel much more awake and alert, which is why so many of us rely on coffee to start our day. But what not everyone knows is that this then leads to a chain reaction where your brain realizes it's now more wide awake and assumes that something very important must be happening. As a result, you begin to produce more dopamine, more cortisol, and more norepinephrine. In other words, your brain floods itself with stress hormones, and this is why caffeine increases your heart rate, makes you feel jittery, and can bring on anxiety. So if you're heading to work and you're stressed about work already, drinking a cup of very strong coffee is like adding fuel to the flame. And what's more, caffeine can prevent you from sleeping properly, and it's addictive in nature. Many of us will experience withdrawal symptoms, even if we go through the night without getting more caffeine. This is one of the reasons you wake up feeling groggy and maybe with a headache. So if you want to start feeling less stressed and more energetic, one of the first things to do is to cut back on caffeine, or even kick that habit completely. Sleeping to combat stress. Another thing you can do to combat stress highly effectively is to improve the quality and quantity of sleep you're getting. The more you sleep, the more refreshed you'll feel in the morning, the more you will have dispensed with stress hormones, and the easier everything is going to seem. Of course, this is something of a catch-22, however, seeing as it's hard to sleep if you're already stressed. The first thing to do then is to try and make the environment you're sleeping in more conducive to a good night's rest. One way to do this is to make the room darker. Another trick is to make the room quieter. Try to keep your bedroom tidier too, and reserve it only for sleeping and for sex, so that when you head to bed, your brain will associate the space and that action with going to sleep. This will also help you keep your room less cluttered, and the less cluttered it is, the less busy your mind will feel when you try and nod off. Another tip for ensuring your sleeping environment is right is to try and keep a little cooler. Leave your window ajar, and this will help your body to better regulate its temperature while you sleep. Remember, in the wild, where we evolved, we would have slept outdoors. A hot shower can also help you to regulate your temperature and has the added benefit of releasing more melatonin and relaxing your muscles. But most important of all is to take half an hour before bed to decompress. Of all the actionable tips for combating stress in this book, consider this to be one of the most valuable. If you head to bed right after watching TV, tidying, washing up, arguing with your partner, then you are still going to be stressed, and this will greatly impact on how well rested you feel in the morning. Instead, then, make a concerted effort to ensure that you get proper recovery by just sitting in bed for half an hour reading. This also means you won't be looking at any kind of screen, which can be responsible for upsetting your body clock and stimulating the production of cortisol. And finally, knowing that you have half an hour to decompress at the end of the day is also incredibly beneficial. It means that no matter how busy and how hectic life gets, you will have at least half an hour in order to relax and let your stress subside. Chapter 10. How to drift off when you're stressed. If your mind is racing with all of the stresses of the day, though, then you might find that it's difficult to switch off and fall asleep. As mentioned, this creates something of a catch-22. The thing to remember here, then, is not to try and force it. What happens for too many people is that they try and fall asleep only to feel their mind racing, and then they get frustrated. They're tired, they're low on energy, and they need to get to sleep. Thus they start trying to force themselves to drift off, which actually only ends up making them upset and raising their heart rate further. The more you try and force yourself to fall asleep, the more stressed you become, and the harder it is to actually sleep. Instead, if you allow yourself to just enjoy lying there, which is still highly beneficial, and if you focus on how comfortable it is and how nice it is not to have to do anything, that's when you'll find you drift off. Getting rid of alarm clocks. One more tip for the bedroom is to get rid of your traditional alarm clock. If you're currently being woken out of a deep sleep by a blaring alarm, then this is about the worst thing you can be doing for your overall stress levels. Why? Because you're going from being deeply asleep to being startled awake. When we sleep, our body and mind are getting restored. We are then designed to wake up only once we have fully recovered from all the trials of the previous day, and only once we have gradually come around. However, our brain is smart and leaves some of our senses untouched. The reason for this is that, in theory, it allows us to stay aware of threats and dangers. In the wild, this would mean that you wouldn't sleep straight through an attack by a predator. Our brain ignores sounds we're used to for the most part, which is why the traffic outside doesn't wake you up. But an unusual and unexpected sound, such as an alarm, which would never have been heard in a natural setting, is enough to jolt us awake. Thus, you wake up, thinking on a primal level that you are being attacked. And again, this leads to the sudden flood of stress hormones. You are startled awake, and for the whole rest of the day, you'll be stressed. Replace this instead with a daylight alarm, such as one of the Lumi devices. These are designed to wake you up with a light that gradually gets brighter and that has the same wavelength as the sun. In other words, your brain thinks it's waking up naturally because the sun is rising, and this gradually brings you out of the deepest levels of sleep, ready to be nudged into wakefulness. This is a much less stressful way to start the day. Chapter 11. Diet and Exercise. Finally, you should also make sure that you are eating a good diet and getting plenty of exercise. Exercise happens to be one of the best natural treatments for stress, depression, and low mood there is. When we work out, this triggers the release of serotonin and other endorphins, putting us in a good mood and helping us to feel generally much better. What's more, exercise in the long run has positive effects on brain structure. It provides us with more mental and physical energy, and it helps us sleep better. Exercise can also combat some of the other causes of stress indirectly. For instance, it makes us much more confident, which can make social stressors seemingly less serious and easier to cope with. Diet-wise, the objective is to lighten the load on your systems and to provide more energy. Avoiding sugary foods can help for starters, as these only cause a sudden spike in blood sugar, followed by a sudden insulin response, followed by a slump as we feel low in energy. Sugar also causes inflammation in the body and can lead to various health problems. Meanwhile, you should try and make sure your diet contains lots of nutrients and is high in vitamins and minerals. These can have all kinds of positive effects on your overall health. For instance, getting more tryptophan from food sources such as poultry can improve your mood, as this is the precursor to serotonin. In other words, it's the raw ingredient that the brain uses to create the happiness hormone. Meanwhile, there is some evidence that a zinc deficiency can lead to cognitive problems, while not getting enough energy from food can also cause depression. Omega-3 fatty acid may improve mood by helping neurons to communicate with one another through the process of increasing cell membrane permeability. You could go into the science of improving energy through diet in a lot of detail, and there'd be enough there to fill a whole book. But really, the key is just to focus on eating nutrient-dense foods while trying to avoid processed sugars. You know this, really, but eating a healthy diet that is comprised of freshly cooked ingredients will ensure you're getting everything you need and not placing a strain on your body unnecessarily. Chapter 12. Some of your stress arises from you. As we try to increase our success in meeting goals and expectations of ourselves, we come to highly value certain outcomes over others. We have given these outcomes a must-have rating, and thinking often revolves around your judgment about whether you are succeeding. With the possibility of you falling short in the eyes of friends, family, and yourself, you intensify the pressure to succeed on yourself. Stress levels become magnified surrounding the issue of succeeding, sometimes to the point of you continually feeling pressure and anxiety. Negative emotions arise, ranging from self-anger, disappointment, loss, feeling less than, hopeless, and fearful. In effect, your emotions spread to encompass most waking moments. Once you recognize where your negative feelings are centered, intervention in the form of different stress management techniques can be applied. Yes, physical relaxation is important, but cognitive relaxation is also primary. It is at this point that you can apply the "so what" test, not to lessen values that are important, but more to evaluate if such stress is truly important enough to jeopardize your health and well-being. Stress management is a continuous flow between mental and physical tension and actively applying methods to reduce the pressure. The key to success is to view yourself as a whole person. And in the big picture, how important is it to hold your own feet to the fire when an adjustment in your thinking can take personal growth to a new level? The least you need to know. 1. Relaxation training should always be a part of your stress management strategy. 2. Equally critical is you honoring your inner wisdom and reevaluating your values. The mission, should you agree to accept, requires 1. Identifying the causes of your stress. 2. Be willing to address stress from a cognitive perspective. 3. Be open to the answers your inner wisdom gives you. I've been a psychotherapist for many years. Many sessions I see myself more of a life coach, helping clients to own their inner strengths and use their inner resources to untangle life's problems. Early in my career, I understood to work in your passion means you will never work a day in your life. Personal growth is a passion, as is helping others grow and learn to cope with bumps in the road. Greeting challenges continues to be a blueprint for apparently most of us in these times. Having survived a life-threatening health issue myself this past year, new paths have been forged. I would like to share survival thoughts and coping techniques with more people than only those who sit in my office. The internet is the obvious choice for expanding client bases and reaching new audiences. Replace bad stress habits with good ones. What's also important to consider is the way that you manage your stress and the way that you manage stressful tasks. In other words, if you have a large list of things to do, how do you go about tackling them? What are your stress habits? Closing open loops. One example of a bad stress habit is leaving open loops. This essentially amounts to the tendency for someone to put off doing the things they find stressful. Let's say, for instance, that you're someone's best man. It's now your job to organize the weekend of a lifetime for them and for all their friends who you don't know. This is, of course, an inherently stressful job and something that you might be dreading doing. So, what do? The tendency a lot of people would have is simply to put it off for a long time until they eventually have to do it. Another example would be calling someone you're stressed about calling. Say you've been invited out by friends and you don't want to go or can't go. Turning down invitations can be a stressful experience, so you might be tempted to put off that conversation for as long as possible. Again, you'd eventually have to contact them, and at this point it would be much more stressful, as you'd now also be guilty of having ignored them for so long, making you feel extra awkward. What's more, leaving open loops in this way will mean you now have an additional stressor in the back of your mind. These things will now be hovering over you as you go through all your other activities. When you're stressed at work, you'll also be stressed about the fact you have that call to make. When you're stressed about your relationship, you'll be aware that you also have to plan a stag. In other words, it makes much more sense to close these open loops as soon as possible. If you have niggling tasks that are causing stress, then do them at the first opportunity. This way, you'll have less burden going forward. The Pomodoro Technique. What's also important is the way that you're working through your to-do list. Here, the big problem a lot of us have is not knowing when to switch off and of working solidly until we eventually collapse, or worse, until we start slowing down to the point where it becomes a waste of time. In other words, we work until we end up procrastinating for hours. You've probably been there. When you have to work on a project or you have to tidy your house, you don't have the energy to work. You find you keep getting distracted, but you have to, so you persevere. And what you end up doing is watching YouTube for ages. This is that thing of walk or sit, don't wobble again. You're watching YouTube, but feeling stressed about it. You're half working. You're not being fully productive, but nor are you getting the benefits of rest either. One way to solve this problem is with the Pomodoro Technique. Here, you simply segregate the time you have into short bursts of productivity, and then short bursts of rest. Normally, you do this using a timer. So, for instance, if you had 10 hours to complete a project, you might break this down into 25-minute working periods with 10-minute rests. This way, you accept that there are going to be points when you stop working. But instead of fighting them and becoming exhausted, you embrace them and use them to properly recover. This is a much more efficient use of your time. And while it can feel odd peeling yourself away, it's also very good training. Over time, you need to teach yourself that sometimes taking a step back is okay, and it's the only way to get over an addiction to stress. Reward systems. The Pomodoro Technique is very popular, and a lot of people swear by it. However, it's not suitable for every type of work. For instance, if you're a writer or programmer, then you might need to get into a flow state in order to get your best work done. This means being completely focused on the work you're doing, and when you reach that point, you will find you even end up putting off toilet trips. Flow states are you at your most productive, but once they're interrupted, they're incredibly hard to get back into. So if you're in that kind of job, the Pomodoro Technique may not be a good fit. Instead, break your work up into tasks that you can complete. For instance, you might say that one chunk of work is to complete 1,000 words. After that, you then give yourself a reward in the form of a cup of tea or 10 minutes to sit and read. Whatever your reward, you will find that this not only breaks your work into periods of productivity and relaxation, but also gives you more incentive to keep working and to keep being productive. The key to getting this right through is to make anything that isn't work a reward. Want to make that cup of tea? Well, you can't do it until you've checked your email. Want to check Facebook? Not until you've finished writing that subroutine. Where normally you might come into work, check Facebook, make a tea, and have a chat before getting anything done, you'll now have completed a ton of work even before your first cuppa. This completely changes the feel of the day and leads to much more work getting done. Chapter 13. Massage Therapy for Stress Management. Below are some tips on how to cope and facilitate in an effective stress management method. Effects of stress in a student. Stress is a natural response of the body when demand is placed upon you, which is often the case at school, as students have to undergo tests and other stressful academic situations. This has been proven by studies, and the more stress a student undergoes, the bigger its impact to one's physical and emotional health condition. Being a student entails a lot of things, and it is not solely about the academic commitments expected of an individual. There are also social pressures involved with being a student that further adds pressure to the situation. Students are therefore encouraged to take proactive stress management approaches to ensuring that you can maintain overall wellness. It is not just all about eliminating stress in your life, but also helps to improve your academic performance as a student. There are several recommended stress management techniques that a student can use, but massage therapy is often on top of that list. Why massage therapy? Massage therapy is known as one of the most effective stress busters there is. But what is it about massaging that makes it a very effective method to relieve stress? It starts off by relieving tension off of your body. As soon as you can release physical tension, you can consequently experience relief in the mind. Massage therapy is therefore useful for students due to its ability to provide physical and mental relief for a comprehensive approach in fighting stress. Costs of massage therapy. When thinking of stress management techniques that students can use, the cost is an important factor to consider. If you are going to hire a professional masseur to perform your massage therapy, it is important to know how much it will cost and if it will fit into your budget. This very concern has resulted in a number of wellness and massage therapy programs available for students who want to enjoy relief from stress. You can also schedule your massage therapy sessions such that you can maximize its results without costing you a lot. Different types of massages. According to the National Center for Complementary and Alternative Medicine, there are several massage techniques that one can use as part of a stress management regimen. The three most popular techniques are as follows. Swedish massage. This technique involves the use of long strokes and kneading to provide maximum relief from muscle tension and stress. Deep tissue massage. This is another reliable massage technique that can effectively deliver stress reduction and relaxation results. Trigger point massage. This massage technique works in knots to eliminate tension that is built up in the body. Enjoying a happier life with proper stress management. Did you know that your ability to eliminate stress in your life also equates to your own happiness? If your ability to stay happy depends on the lack of stressors in your life, then there is no better motivation than that to strengthen your stress management efforts. Below is some of the information you need to know to get started on that. Chapter 14. Stress and Happiness. It has been known that stress could have a direct impact on your health condition, such that it could put you at risk of developing certain illnesses, such as high blood pressure, stroke, or serious heart problems. But the most significant impact of stress is something that is felt in your everyday life, your ability to stay happy and energized. Since stress is a fact of life, it does not mean that you have to completely accept it as something that you cannot change or have no control of. This is due to a domino effect that stress creates in one's life. If you are able to overcome stress, you can live healthy. If you live healthy, then you can stay happy. And this is not as easy as it appears, though. You need to follow a 3-step plan: identifying your stressors, finding a stress management technique that works for you, and then adapting that into your life. Identifying your stressors. The cause of stress in one person is different from the other. Hence, you need to take the time to look into what it might be that is causing you tremendous amounts of stress on a daily basis. Could it be that you are loading yourself more work than you can handle? Are you stressed by the intense level of competition for academic excellence at school? Is your health condition causing you too much worry? Identifying your priorities in life could also reveal what your stressors are. You can never skip this step when trying to realize proper stress management in your life. You cannot find a solution if you do not know the source of the problem. Find a stress management technique that works for you. Once you find out what the problem is, you can now look into different stress management techniques that can work for addressing that problem. Since there are different stressors for each individual, there are also unique ways of addressing the issue. Some people find it would be good to set aside time for themselves, such as pampering or doing things that they enjoy. For a few others, they like to stay indoors and enjoy a moment of solitude, such that they can be away from the hustle and bustle of the outside world to find inner peace. Whichever approach works for you, it is all up for you to discover. Experiment with using various stress management techniques first, and then see which ones offer the best results. Tips to lead a stress-free life. If you cannot think of any activity or ideas to overcome stress, here are some activities you can incorporate into your stress management regimen to stay happy and healthy. Create a relaxing environment that would facilitate a relaxing body and mind. You can sit on a lounger in your patio while enjoying fresh air, listen to some soothing music, or light up scented candles in your room. You can travel and have a vacation for a few days. If you are too busy, do this over the weekend. Use the opportunity to rejuvenate yourself and not think about anything that might cause you stress, such as work or financial problems at home. Explore nature and the wild outdoors. A lot of people find being close to nature to be very relaxing. If you are one of those, here's your time to do so. Chapter 15. Interrupting your usual stress reactions. Hopefully, you've found that all of the tips in this book so far have made a lot of sense. And hopefully, you'll be confident that you can start reducing the stressors in your life and living a slightly easier routine. But no matter how well you follow all this advice, it's not going to help if a ton of paperwork suddenly lands on your desk, or if your boss flies off the handle at you, or if your partner yells at you for leaving the stove on. These are acute causes of stress, and they can all completely undermine all your good work. What you need is a strategy for dealing with acute stress. When the fight or flight response kicks in with full force, how do you shut it back down? Chapter 16. CBT and Mindfulness. If you were to go and see a doctor about stress, one of the things they would recommend is CBT. CBT is cognitive behavioral therapy, a type of therapy that looks at breaking down our experiences, emotions, and behaviors into thoughts, and then reconstructing those thoughts. In the case of stress, CBT offers two powerful tools that can have a massive impact on your ability to manage and cope. Mindfulness. The first is mindfulness. This is a form of meditation, the objective of which is to learn more about your own mind and the thoughts you are having. At the same time, it teaches you to be less of a slave to your thoughts and to live more in the now. So if you're stressed, you'll probably find that you have a lot of anxious thoughts like, my partner is going to leave me, or I'm going to lose my job. These are what are making you feel anxious. And the key to recognize here is that it's not the stressor that is really responsible for your emotional state, but rather your perception of that stressor. Mindfulness means using meditation to rise above those thoughts so that you can live in the now, so that you can just be instead of feeling like a slave to the whims of your mind. So for instance, you can rise above stress by simply focusing on your breathing. When you're focusing on your breathing, you aren't thinking about all the bad that can happen. Likewise, focus on your body and try to feel it in space. Feel your weight on the ground and the wind against your skin. Listen to the sounds in the distance. In mindfulness, the practice of this is called the body scan, and it's a great way to ensure you are living in the present and not inside your own head. The next step in mindfulness is to expand this newfound awareness to incorporate your surroundings, and then to incorporate your own thoughts. In other words, you are going to simply watch your thoughts come and go. Watch them pass like clouds. Don't engage with the thoughts and don't judge them. Just watch them and then focus back on your breathing. This is useful because it helps you to stop being a slave to your thoughts. Recognizing that you're stressed and that you are likely having stressed thoughts is a very good way to stop those thoughts from having power over you. Recognize the impermanence of all mental states. At the same time, this practice can help you to overcome some of the symptoms of stress in the short term. By using controlled breathing, for instance, you can engage your parasympathetic nervous system and get your heart rate back down. By stopping ruminations and by not fearing the stress itself, you allow your body the best chance to return to normal. This can also be used in conjunction with visualization. Imagining yourself in a happy place, for instance, can help you to bring your heart rate back down and to relax your muscles. Cognitive restructuring. The other powerful aspect of CBT for combating stress is cognitive restructuring. This is a tool that can be used to change the way you think about stressful situations and to remove the negative thoughts entirely. For instance, if you're stressed about work, you might have specific thoughts causing that, such as, I'm going to get fired, or I'll never finish it on time. Using cognitive restructuring, you're going to remove these thoughts. How? One tool is thought challenging. In other words, you're going to challenge these beliefs. Would you get fired for getting something wrong? Or would that be illegal? If you've had no warnings, and if you're trying your best, it's incredibly unlikely you'd be fired for making mistakes or not completing your work. And are you really not going to finish your work? Haven't you been in this exact position countless times before? Doesn't it always work out? And if you really aren't going to finish, is it your fault? What's the worst repercussion? How could you manage that problem? Telling your boss or client and asking someone for help, for instance. Suddenly, when you realize the worst case scenario is A, unlikely, and B, not actually that bad, it robs it of its power over you. The other part of cognitive restructuring is hypothesis testing. Here, you simply try that thing you're really afraid of. Stressed about stuttering in public? Try it. Stutter in public, and you'll notice no one laughs, and no one even notices. It's actually very normal. Again, that fear isn't so bad once you've looked at it objectively, is it? Chapter 17. Kids and Stress. Kids, like adults, suffer from stress too. Hence, they must also have proper stress management techniques to ensure that they can overcome it and enjoy good physical, emotional, and cognitive health. This is especially true if your child is of schooling age already. Kids and stress. Despite the general misconception that only adults suffer from stress, children can suffer from just as much stress too. But how is it possible? Stress in kids might be even more challenging than in the case of adults, since they often do not have a clear grasp yet on what stress is about and how they can deal with it. You can start by identifying the root of the problem. Stress can come from academic pressure, bullying from other kids in school, social difficulties or discrimination, and even family problems can affect kids. Unless you find out what the source of stress is, it could be quite difficult to resolve it. So you must always begin with this step to eliminate unhealthy worry or stress that your child might have to deal with. Healthy communication. The simplest method to understand the source of stress in your child is to communicate with them. Even if you are busy with work, take a few minutes off your time each day to speak with your child and ask them about certain things that might be bothering them at school or even in your own home. As a parent, it is your responsibility to understand and help your child deal with their problems. This will also encourage your kids to be open to you about certain problems that they are dealing with on an everyday basis. Promote a positive attitude in your kids. This is a very important lesson you can teach your child. You need to let them understand that stress is normal and may even be healthy if channeled in the right way. Parents are the ones to serve as models for their kids when it comes to acquiring a positive attitude in life. If possible, you need to start this at an early age. Stress and worry can promote negativity and pessimism in your child. In the long run, this will begin to affect their health and attitude in life. Engage them in sports and play. The most effective stress buster for kids is to engage in sports and games. Thus, parents need to get their children to stay out and have fun doing physical activities. Aside from focusing on physical sports, you can also get them to do puzzles and board games to help boost their focus and concentration. You must encourage them to do physical exercises, and you can increase benefits by doing them together, such as walking, cycling, biking, or jogging. Develop a healthy lifestyle and diet. The diet and lifestyle of your child can both dramatically impact their ability to deal with stress. Indeed, a healthy disposition in life will enable them to develop effective stress management skills. Make sure that you look after the foods that they are eating to ensure that it is good for them. Always keep in touch with your child so you can do lots of beneficial activities together. This can be stress relieving for the both of you. Chapter 18. Hypnosis for Stress Management. Tried several stress management methods, but none of them seem to work? Why not consider doing hypnosis? Many people have tried this technique to overcome stress and other similar conditions, so you can give this a shot too if you want to gain effective relief against stress. After all, you've probably seen this technique used on films and on TV as a tool for dissecting and overcoming emotional struggles. Here's how to better understand how it works and how you can benefit from it. What is hypnotherapy? To understand how hypnotherapy works, you must first define what hypnosis is. The term is derived from the Greek word hypnos, which literally means sleep. It involves an instructor who will induce the patient into a sleep state such that they can enter a form of trance, wherein they will provide truthful answers to questions asked during each session. The idea behind the use of hypnosis is to extract the true feelings and thoughts of a person, which is not often the case during interrogation. Hypnotherapists are therefore the instructors who preside over this therapy session. Over time, there have been numerous hypnosis techniques that have been developed to elicit a more effective result using this kind of therapy. This has led it to be used as a stress management technique, knowing how stress has been determined to be caused by a combination of factors and often takes place in the mind. The benefits of hypnosis versus stress. How is hypnosis useful in dealing with stress? This particular therapy enables the person to talk about the cause of their stress, confront it, address its root, and be able to overcome the problem. All of these are not often possible without entering the hypnosis trance, since people tend to hold back information or to deny the existence of stress in their lives. The idea of bringing the real cause of stress and trauma onto the surface is believed to help find ways to reverse the symptoms. Hypnosis has been likened to meditation, although the former has drawn more curious attention ever since it was introduced. It also requires the specialized skill of an expert hypnotherapist that will facilitate in your entering into that mental state to ensure an effective therapy session. It has been known to be effective in curing not just stress, but also various conditions associated with stress, namely phobias, post-traumatic disorders, depression, dissociative disorders, habit changes, among other things. Caution and warning. As mentioned above, hypnotherapy requires a specialized set of skills to enable you to enter a trance mental state. Hence, your ability to benefit from this particular stress management technique relies a lot on your ability to tap the services of a truly qualified hypnotherapist. When deciding which hypnotherapist to perform the therapy session on you, make sure to look into their expertise and seek proof of qualification. Aside from years of experience doing hypnosis, they must also have some good results to show off. Tips before entering hypnotherapy. If you have decided to use hypnotherapy for stress management, here are some tips to consider to help you to get started. Always conduct a research on hypnotherapy if you are contemplating to use this technique. This will give you a broader idea on what to expect. Make sure to check the cost for each therapy session to ensure that you can afford it. Aside from the method itself, make sure to conduct a thorough research on the background for each hypnotherapist you decide to hire. After all, you are going to use them as a medium to take back what is rightfully yours, which is your peace of mind. Chapter 19. Coping with Stress-Related Illnesses. Stress might be largely associated as a mental condition. It does have its own physical manifestations. Indeed, the link between one's emotions or behavior has a direct link with their physical state. Whether you are suffering from illnesses and do not want to stress over it, or you want to reduce stress to prevent acquisition of certain illnesses, you need to start off with improving your stress management ability. Stress-related illnesses. These types of illnesses are being far more common today, with most individuals leading a hectic lifestyle that makes one vulnerable to suffering from stress. Whether at home, in the workplace, at school, stress is always present. If you lack proper stress management, then it won't be long until you develop physical symptoms of stress. As these symptoms add up, you could eventually develop stress-related illnesses that could range from simple to serious conditions. The key to managing stress-related illnesses is to identify the source of stress in order to find effective ways to overcome them. The medical sector is also looking closely into identification of stress symptoms in order for these conditions to be addressed as soon as possible. Migraines. This is the most common form of stress-related illness known to man. The connection should be quite apparent due to the level of mental stress that an individual undergoes with constant worry and anxiety. Hence, a lot of highly stressed individuals suffer from constant headaches and migraines. The medical sector is looking for more effective ways to treat migraines since statistics have shown a growing number of people suffering from it. Currently, statistical data reveal there are 18 million who are migraine sufferers, with 70% of those made up by women. The best recommended cure for migraine is to identify the source of stress and address it to stabilize one's condition. Muscle tension. Muscle tension can either be a symptom of stress or a form of illness resulting from it. Either way, it can be devastating to one's health and must therefore be addressed as soon as possible. An individual suffering from muscle tension will experience pinching sensation around the main limbs and muscles, such as the shoulders, neck, and lower back. Some health researchers have also linked muscle tension with migraine, such that both these conditions usually manifest simultaneously. High blood pressure. This is probably the most common health condition arising from extreme stress levels. Aside from emotional and psychological instability, there is also a physiological explanation to this. Whenever an individual is stressed out, they are releasing adrenaline hormones that eventually increase activity in your body muscles that is faster than normal. As a result, it also increases the amount of muscle contraction that sends blood throughout your body. This causes tension in your muscles and blood vessels, which is usually not restored until the stimulus is gone. Proper stress management procedures are therefore important to provide relief during highly stressful situations to normalize physiological functions in the body. This could save you from the risk of suffering from cardiac attack due to high blood pressure, among other fatal risks. Chapter 20. Handling relationship stress. Stress management is part and parcel of growing in a relationship. This is an inevitable part of any relationship, such that you need to learn how to effectively overcome them and enjoy the companionship of your partner. There are several causes of stress in a relationship, regardless of what type of relationship that might be. The difficulty of this undertaking is even more complicated, knowing that an individual is engaged in different relationships at one time. Relationships could be with your family, siblings, parents, friends, or acquaintances, office mates, and your partner. Following are some stress management tips you need to learn about if you want to develop healthier relationships with these people in your life. Analyze the cause. The most important step in dealing with stress in a relationship is to analyze the cause. Some people might not even be aware of relationship stress since it is overshadowed by some other pressures in life. You must therefore accept and acknowledge the presence of stress before you can do something about it. Do not put off solving problems that are causing stress in your relationship. This will only make the problem worse. Recognizing stress will enable you to identify a solution. Talk with your partner. Another effective step towards stress management in a relationship is to talk it out with the person or persons concerned. Constant communication will enable you to get rid of stress that you encounter on a day-to-day basis. In some cases, stress in a relationship is not directly rooted from it, but only comes as an effect of some other sources of stress, such as the workplace or school. Unless you talk it out, you will only make the person you're in that relationship with feel guilty or doubt themselves. Attitude changes. Once you trace the cause of stress and you have opened up about it to your partner, you can make the necessary changes to your attitude or the way you deal with things that concern you both. If you feel like a certain attitude of yours is the root of stress or problems within the relationship, then work on changing it. Only you can control your own behavior, hence you need to take the initiative to do so. For example, if you tend to be a nagger towards your husband or boyfriend, then why not consider listening to what they have to say first, instead of saying harsh responses to them? In the case of parent-children tension, why not consider changing how you approach your relationship? Parents can start by befriending their kids instead of scolding them often and inspiring rebellious behaviors. Developing a fresh perspective in a relationship. Dealing with a hectic schedule and lifestyle can take its toll on both your mind and body, so you need to stop for a while and reconsider your priorities to have a change of perspective. When you are too busy, you often forget about some other important things in life, such as your relationship with your family or partner. They tend to become your last priority, when in fact they should be on top. Remember all of the above considerations to facilitate an effective stress management approach in your relationships. Chapter 21. Panic Attack Treatment. Are you suffering from panic attacks? Then you must take heart from the fact that treatment of panic attack is very much possible. People do get out of this condition and get on with their life. Panic attack treatment with cognitive behavioral therapy. Your thinking controls your reactions. Your deep-rooted beliefs control the way you react in a certain way to certain situations. There are some set thinking patterns that govern you day in and day out without you being aware of this. If you change your thinking, your reactions will change. Cognitive behavioral therapy works on this level. It helps you understand why you react the way you do. It helps you understand and control your thinking patterns and your reactions. The treatment proceeds as a collaboration between the therapist and the patient. The therapist helps the client understand patterns of thinking that are distorted and unrealistic, but have not been examined. These thinking patterns keep one trapped in the same kind of situations. The assumptions are examined and then kept or rejected. In many situations, your mind may be sounding alarm bells as if some catastrophe is going to take place. But, if examined, such prophecies are found to be unfounded. Consequently, you are able to view the situation in a realistic way. The anxiety and panic reaction starts getting weaker and weaker, and ultimately stops altogether. Panic attack treatment with exposure therapy. In exposure therapy, the person is exposed to a situation, object, or memory for which he feels fearful or anxious. The person is asked to remember and relive the distressing experience under controlled conditions. The therapist guides the person in dealing with anxiety and fear, helping him to remain calm and controlled under previously fearful situations. The person is encouraged to discuss his feelings with the therapist, who helps the person cope with disturbing emotions and reactions taking place in the mind and body. The therapist also guides the patient in finding new ways and techniques to deal with situations. Agoraphobia is also treated with the help of exposure therapy. The patient slowly learns that the situation and places that he avoids are not that fearful, and he can develop the strength to live his life normally without debilitating fears. Hypnosis and relaxation techniques may also be used as part of the therapy. Exposure therapy is also used to cure anxiety and trauma, PTSD, as well as panic and anxiety disorders. Medicines for panic disorders. Sometimes medicines are administered for anxiety and panic attack treatment, but they are not the permanent cures for them. At the most, they help relieve the sufferer from extreme physical symptoms, but they do not remove the real conditions that give rise and maintain anxiety and panic in an individual, which are his own thought patterns and inability to deal with disturbing emotions. They should always be taken as a supportive tool. The real issues are always handled in our hearts and minds, sometimes with some form of therapy, at others with meditation, lifestyle changes, self-help programs, or a combination of some of these. Antidepressants are sometimes used for treating anxiety and panic attacks. However, they take some time before they show any difference. Benzodiazepines are the drugs that act quickly to relieve one from the symptoms of anxiety attacks, but they are to be taken with caution because they have serious side effects. Self-help for anxiety and panic attacks. The ideal panic attack treatment should have the following essential ingredients. Understanding the nature of anxiety. Understanding the nature of symptoms, what causes them, and how to come out of them. Relaxation techniques. Change of attitudes and building faith in your inbuilt ability to deal with such emotions. You should also be able to understand the nature of anxiety and be able to recognize that the capability to control these emotional reactions also lies within you. All of the above panic attack treatment options are effective in their own way. Choose the one that inspires you. Yet none of these will work if that key ingredient is missing, the motivation to get over this condition. I can assure you that anxiety and panic attacks can be overcome. People have got over this and are now living a normal life. You can too. Chapter 22. Anxiety Disorder. Some anxiety is normal. Is your inner calm often disturbed by bouts of anxiety? Do you often find yourself staring at the question that has suddenly taken shape in your mind, am I normal? Feeling anxiety is a normal reaction to certain situations you fear. It becomes a disorder when it goes berserk, when the anxiety reaction is out of proportion to the actual danger inherent in the situation, or worse, when there is no reason for this reaction at all. When does anxiety become a disorder? You feel butterflies in your stomach before appearing in an examination. Your palpitation increases just prior to giving a presentation. You worry and lose sleep about the financial situation of the family. These are all perfectly normal reactions of your mind and body. It is normal to feel anxious in stressful situations. It is good, in fact. This state of tension increases your levels of energy and concentration and improves your performance. It spurs you to take action for meeting with crisis situations. The normal anxiety crosses over to a disorder when anxiety is so overwhelming that it starts interfering with your normal life, your relationships, and your performance at work. Following are some signs and symptoms of anxiety. If you find that you are experiencing several of these in your everyday life, then it is a matter which needs your immediate attention. Do you avoid some everyday situations because they make you unduly anxious? Do you find yourself plagued by fears that appear to be irrational? Is anxiety so intense that it is interfering with your relations and your performance at work? Are you always tense, jittery, and excessively worried over even small matters? Do you experience bouts of panic in normal situations, with or without physical symptoms like sweating and palpitation? Do you find yourself indulging in certain rituals, the not doing of which causes lots of anxiety and fears in your mind? Symptoms that need immediate action. Reasons for feeling anxiety may not be similar for two persons. Each person has his or her own worldview. Each one has a unique story. If one is afraid of speaking in public, then another one may be anxious to visit new places. Yet another one has become a prisoner of habits and rituals which are all but making his life a hell. However, excessive worrying and fretting and feeling afraid in situations which seem to be harmless to most people are sure signs of having an anxiety disorder. Following are some of the symptoms which are quite common in cases of anxiety-related problems and can help you determine if you are suffering from some sort of anxiety disorder. Headaches, tiredness, heart palpitation, pounding heart, sweating, upset stomach, having to urinate very frequently, muscle tension, exaggerated fears, feeling edgy, getting startled easily, irritability, trouble falling asleep, disturbed sleep, trouble concentrating, shortness of breath, difficulty breathing. Types of anxiety disorders. There are 6 main types of anxiety disorders: panic disorder, obsessive-compulsive disorder, social anxiety disorder, post-traumatic stress disorder, and phobias. Panic disorder. People suffering from this disorder experience sudden attacks of fear and panic, mostly without warning. These attacks are characterized by symptoms such as increased or irregular heartbeat, sweating, a feeling of choking, and a strong desire to run away. Fear of having another attack is an important characteristic of panic disorders. Social anxiety. This is characterized by a fear of all kinds of social situations. If you are suffering from social phobia, you are afraid of being negatively judged by others. You are extremely self-conscious and always fear that others will ridicule you for what you say or do. Phobias. The phobia is an intense fear of specific objects, situations, or activities. For example, you might have a fear of spiders, fear of darkness, fear of flying, or fear of heights. Generalized anxiety disorder. This anxiety disorder is characterized by excessive worrying and fretting over anything and everything. The person is plagued by tension, fear, and anxiety most of the time. He may start worrying about matters which only remotely concern him. For example, some mishap in the town, a crash in the stock market, or announcement of a change in the weather. Always, the amount of anxiety is out of proportion to the situation and is often unrealistic. Obsessive-compulsive disorder, OCD. The person suffering from OCD is driven by fears and anxieties that force him to perform some rituals or specific actions. The thoughts plaguing him are obsessions that make him perform those actions, which are compulsions. The worries compel him to go through rituals that seem to relieve his tension, albeit temporarily. Post-traumatic stress disorder. This type of anxiety disorder arises following some life-threatening traumatic situation. The disorder is characterized by nightmares, hypervigilance, startling easily, withdrawing from social interactions, avoiding situations that reminds one of the event. Surviving stress and anxiety. Stress and anxiety cannot be completely eliminated. It might also not be a very desirable thing to do. These discomforting emotions, though destroyers of inner peace, are a part of our survival itinerary. They are essential for our well-being. They force us to think about the future and impel us to take action. You study hard for your exam. You work diligently on your presentation. You prepare sincerely for the interview. Or, in some situations, you throw down the towel and say, "No, I can't handle it. Let somebody else." It's okay. You cannot do everything. Deciding not to take any action is also a decision that needs to be taken. It is not taking any decision that eats your heart out, quite literally. When stress and anxiety are not handled in a timely manner, they may take gigantic proportions. It may lead to serious health problems like hypertension, upset stomach, and headaches, and psychological problems such as anxiety disorder, acute stress, and panic attacks. Stress is like fire. If managed properly, it will energize you. Else, it will consume you. The art of surviving stress and anxiety lies in developing your resilience and taking action when they strike. Here are 4 most important things you can do to keep them in control. Raise your self-esteem. Low self-esteem is a vital ingredient in anxiety. When your self-esteem is low, you are always criticizing yourself. You feel that you don't deserve to be happy. You always think about what you don't have or can't have. You are never satisfied with yourself, your present situation, your family, and your job. Low self-esteem makes it almost impossible to develop good relations with other people. Low self-esteem deceives you of your inner peace due to the following reasons. You subject yourself to self-torture through negative criticism. You are always anxious about gaining approval and acceptance from others. If you want to judge whether you suffer from low self-esteem, then pause for a moment and honestly answer these. Do you consider yourself worthy of love? Do you remember the negative judgments about you more than the positive ones? If low self-esteem is your reason for increased stress and anxiety, then take immediate steps to boost it. Low self-esteem will sabotage all other efforts despite your best intentions. You may be pleased to know nobody is born with self-esteem. This is something which has to be cultivated. We all go through periods of low and high self-esteem. Every time we sink, we have to pull ourselves up. If low self-esteem has become your second nature after years of self-abuse, you may find it hard to get out of it. It is advisable to get an expert's help who has worked in the field of self-esteem. Create a supportive circle. Having good relations with people around you makes life easier. With a supportive circle of friends and relatives around you, your worries become somewhat less distressing and pain somewhat easier to endure. It need not be an army of friends. Having a few friends is good enough. It is healthy also. Merely sharing your worries is extremely important for your mental health. Sometimes a willing ear is all you need. Having a network of supportive relationships helps because it gives you a sense of security and belonging, and it increases your sense of self-worth as you know that there are so many people who approve of you and accept you as you are. Do you find yourself inept at cultivating good relations? Here are a few hints that can set you on the right path. They are simple and common sense, but needless to say, need to be put into practice. Remain in touch. If someone has not called you for some time, take the initiative and make a call or make a personal visit. Emails are okay, but they lack that personal touch. Maintain a diary to list some important dates. Remember anniversaries, birthdays, important events of your friends and relatives, and wish them personally. See how it improves your goodwill. Take interest in their lives. Listen carefully when they share their concerns with you. Give your advice when they expect it from you. Maintaining good relationships is important for your mental well-being. Take it as a small duty that you owe to yourself. Always remember that it is worth the time and effort that you need to put into it. Live a regulated life. Living a disciplined life will take care of approximately 50% of your worries. You will greatly reduce stress and anxiety in your life if you take care of the following. Right eating. You are what you eat, a very important dictum of Ayurveda. In this fast-paced life, convenience takes precedence over importance and taste over health. With the easy availability of burgers, pizzas, ice creams, and aerated drinks, caution is a casualty. Popular fast foods are highly processed and refined to make them last longer during their shelf life. They are not particularly good for your health, and a heavy dependence on them is positively harmful, making you prone to diseases like hypertension, diabetes, and heart problems. Popular foods are often high in caffeine and contain large amounts of proteins. They will make you more alert, increase the level of arousal, and make you prone to stress and anxiety. Give preference to foods high in carbohydrates. They keep stress levels low naturally. Regular exercise. Exercise is helpful on many counts. It gives you a feeling of well-being and being in control. You feel good for doing something that is beneficial for you. Further, exercise releases stress hormones like cortisol and norepinephrine. Extended periods of stress and anxiety often cause pains and cramps. They are produced by toxins trapped in your muscles. Exercise eases out these harmful chemicals from your body and helps you in getting relief from muscular pains and cramps. Exercising for 20 to 30 minutes, 3 to 5 times a week, will keep you in high spirits. Regular meditation. Meditation is something which anybody can do, notwithstanding the sense of mystery associated with it. There are a number of meditations that have been recommended down the ages. Choose the one that is right for you. The positive changes brought about by meditation are very much measurable and provable. The recent emergence of mind-body medicine is a proof of this. If you are not meditating, you are missing something. When you meditate, you give your body, mind, and soul a chance to come back in harmony. It heals your spirit. It brings down stress and anxiety and helps you lead life with more energy and a positive outlook. Are you aware that just listening to binaural audios can take you to deep meditative states? Just the right solution if learning to meditate seems like a daunting task to you. Relaxation. Worries and tensions are necessary parts of life. You cannot avoid them. Choose some activity that relaxes you, going for a walk, indulging in a hobby like gardening or music, or listening to soothing music, or taking a hot water bath with aromatic oils. All these are helpful. You may try massage or spa, anything that suits you and is readily available. And finally, take action. Some people are prone to analyzing the situation ad nauseum. They examine the issues threadbare, slice it into neat, logical parts, and even prepare a complete action plan. They will do everything short of taking actual action. This might be due to their habit of procrastination, unorganized lifestyle, not setting realistic goals, or maybe it is all due to low self-esteem. If you are affected with this malady of not taking action at the right time, you yourself are the biggest cause of stress and anxiety in your own life. Understand yourself and learn to take the right action in the right amount and at the right moment. Time is something which, once gone, never comes back. It is the dearest commodity you have. Learn to use it wisely. Chapter 23. How to deal with stress easily. Stress management strategies are wide and varied, and for many people almost impossible to follow. I believe in teaching my readers simple, effective, and unique ways on how to deal with stress. Unless the strategies are simple, you will never stick to them. Unless they are effective, you will find that your stress levels and the effects on your body are still present. Unless they are unique, then everyone will teach the same. And by now, you realize that the same techniques many offer plainly don't help. The first step, and I congratulate you on this, is to recognize that stress is affecting you. This is actually a vital step, as it means you are ready to take action, learn some strategies, and start reducing your stress levels. This book will outline 7 simple stress relief strategies you can start using right now. Tip 1. Reduce your workload. Imagine telling your boss that you have decided to work less, yet still be paid the same. Good luck on that. Reducing your workload is actually quite simple. Complete the work you must do at work, but prioritize the work that you don't need to do. Learn the art of saying no. If you complete your work that you are paid for, don't go looking for extra work. You've earned that break, and you also need it. Did you know that as you reduce stress, learn to calm your mind, that you will actually have extra hours in the day? A busy mind is one that is cluttered, so that your current workload seems greater than it truly is. You can simply reduce your workload by reducing the stressful thoughts in your mind. But if your boss will let you, then also ask to reduce it and remain paid the same. If not, reduce what you can. Tip 2. Put yourself first. The airlines do it, and so should you. When the mask falls from the compartment above you, place the mask over your face first before you help anybody else. If not, you won't survive. The same with your current daily life. Put yourself first. This is part of the learning to say no approach. If you have had a busy day and someone asks you to help them with a task, ask yourself a simple question. Is this of benefit to me now or in the future? If the answer is no, then simply say you can't help. Telling a small white lie to use as an excuse is okay too. You can take this even further by scheduling a daily meeting for 20 to 30 minutes if you can. A meeting with yourself. Simply place in your diary a meeting time, either during working hours or after, that you plan to have time for yourself. Time to have a coffee, go for a walk, or just chill out without anyone bothering you. Tell people you have a meeting and that you can't be disturbed. It's an important meeting, as it is with you, the most important person in the world. Nobody asks you to skip an important meeting, and don't, as it is very important. I still believe this is one of the best stress management strategies you can use. Tip 3. A good sleep. Get a good night's sleep. Sleep is very important as it gives your body time to rest and your mind time to relax. Sleep is essential and necessary. If you find it hard to get to sleep, stay asleep, or sleep and feel refreshed, then you need to learn ways to calm your mind so that your sleep patterns get better. And another way to help improve your sleep is to utilize the next tip. Tip 4. Exercise. This doesn't mean you need to join a gym or train for a marathon, but going for a walk, bike ride, swim, or even playing a sport all helps with reducing stress. When you exercise, you release hormones that help with stress relief. Also, when you walk, jog, or run, you are in the fresh air, able to see all the sights, sounds, smells around us. Nature itself has great stress management strategies. The sounds of birds, the crashing waves, the babbling brook, and many other natural events all help you with stress. Each day, simply spend some time exercising. Once you do, you will find it easy to just go out for a walk. It can be part of your meeting time with yourself. But start today. Finish reading this book and then get out from your desk and go outside for a few minutes. Breathe in the air, listen for sounds, and relax. You will feel better for it. Tip 5. Meditate. Meditation has been shown for many years to be very effective for stress relief. But please, don't be confused about meditation. Meditation is the art of slowing your thoughts, of calming your mind so that your outside world has no effect on you. Picturing relaxing scenes, saying phrases, or listening to a CD of music is mental relaxation, not meditation. Meditation is a simple skill to learn. Understanding how to deal with stress is great, but unless you are meditating, you are not doing it as effectively as you can. And then there are stress management strategies they never mention. Tip 6. Enjoy your food and drink. Going out for a coffee is a great way to reduce stress. So is eating well and enjoying a nice glass of wine. A nice meal should tantalize your senses with aromas, tastes, and textures, and you should savor every mouthful. If your cooking skills are not great, then eat out. A nice restaurant doesn't need to be expensive, and not takeaways. Sit down with your spouse, a close friend. Enjoy the food, enjoy the company. Have a nice glass of wine and spend time relaxing. Make it regular enough so that you have something to look forward to and also something to remember. In the same style, I enjoy holidays the same, making sure I have mini breaks that are totally fun and enjoyable. Knowing how to deal with stress is easy when you are relaxed, and you can become more relaxed by enjoying life, even when the stresses are piling up. There are many simple ways to stop the stresses entering your mind, simple ways that allow you to take breaks even in stress-filled times and still be able to enjoy life. And if you find stresses are just too large, then try the following tip. Tip 7. Throw a phone book. This is still the best way I know how to deal with stress I ever have used. Taught to me by a good friend, and one I've used to deal with bosses, business partners, insurance companies, and people who just get under your skin. It can even also be used for stresses relating to events outside your control, so not just people. And it's very simple. Firstly, you need a few old phone books, simple to get by asking a few local businesses for old copies. 7 or 8 are ideal. Then, all you do is find a nice quiet room in your home, or your garage is fine too. Then focus on the ground, the person, event, or whatever is stressing you out. Even if you don't know what or who it is, simply focus your stress on a point in front of you. Then pick up a phone book and throw it hard at the spot. Make sure it is thrown hard enough to bounce. Then pick up the next and repeat until you have thrown all the phone books. Then simply pick them all up, restack them, and throw them again. Keep doing this until they no longer bounce away from the focal spot of your stress. When you finish, you will feel physically tired, but also relaxed. You will actually feel a weight off your shoulders, and your mind will seem clear and even happy. It's one of the great stress management strategies, and one I still use today if stresses build up out of my control. I don't wait until they are large, but it helps reduce the physical effects of stress. Combined with my ability to calm my mind easily, stresses are easy to deal with at all times. As I said, I believe in teaching unique yet effective ways to reduce stress. Stress management strategies can be simple. They can actually be fun too. Knowing how to deal with stress starts here. You've recognized you are under stress. Now you just need to learn how to make sure you have the skills to calm your mind and prevent stress causing issues now or in the future. Chapter 24. Improving Stress Management Skills at Work. Learn to have fun. Having fun at work and learning how to relax could make or break you in the workplace. This is a great way to relieve stress in the office and become more productive with work. A feeling of sluggishness is inevitable if you had to work for several hours straight. Even a few minutes of break to laugh, eat, or do something non-related could revive you and re-energize both mind and body to do more for the rest of the day. Just make sure to observe proper decorum while you are taking a break in the office. Refrain from making too much noise and limit the time you spend while on break. Promote physical movement. The condition of your physical body is a vital aspect to rejuvenate your mind. When you are sitting on a chair or desk for several hours, you do not get as much movement on your body. As a result, you could feel lethargic or easily stressed out. You must therefore start off by curing physical stress to ensure a more cohesive and effective stress management approach. The solution for this is very simple. You need to keep your entire body moving. You can perform simple exercises to reduce physical stress, such as stretching your arms and legs. Do this at regular intervals to promote blood circulation throughout your body. You can also try walking around the hallway or around your desk for a few minutes. Simple things like that can make a huge difference. Adapt a healthy lifestyle. If you are serious about proper stress management in the office, then make sure you commit yourself to developing a healthy lifestyle. Your personal lifestyle can also impact your body's ability to manage stress. You can achieve this by eating a balanced diet and avoiding unhealthy habits such as drinking or smoking. Proper time management. A common cause of stress in the workplace is a lack of time to squeeze in all of the pending work that needs to get done. Hence, time management skills will enable you to overcome stress effectively. You need to organize your work according to what is on top of your priorities. Make sure to complete the urgent ones first and learn to appropriate your time well according to what you need to get done for the day. Avoid committing to responsibilities and tasks that will not fit into your daily schedule. Work with a team. Aside from a lack of time to accommodate pending work, another common source of stress in the workplace is the inability to work together with a team or your co-employees. You must therefore work towards building proper teamwork such that you can work smarter and get more things done in less time. It will be a reliable stress management technique for you and your office mates. Relaxation techniques. Stress in life is necessary to keep alive the creative edge, survival instincts, and the motivation to perform better. However, modern-day stressors have surpassed this objective and have started to take a toll on our well-being. Stress of any form not only leads to mental and emotional strain, but also takes a toll on the physical well-being of a person. Therefore, a person has to relax in order to curb the strains and achieve peace of mind. To ward off stress, relaxation techniques and activities are widely practiced. Relaxation methods help a person fight off many physical illnesses that can be triggered by stress or may be aggravated because of it. Relaxation techniques can either be suggested by doctors or a person can engage in them by himself or herself to reap the benefits. Any activity that has a calming effect on a person is characterized as a way of relaxing. Reduce stress and anxiety with 6 easy relaxation techniques. There are numerous relaxation techniques, and each one has a different effect on a person. Therefore, any relaxation technique that works on one individual may not be suitable for another. Like any other activity, relaxation techniques should not be practiced to attain perfection. Rather, patience and practice is the key in reaping their benefits. Living in the present. The best relaxation technique is to stop worrying about and focusing on the future. Sometimes overthinking about future events and things we have no control over can lead to tremendous amounts of anxiety. It is also necessary not to dwell on the past every now and then because it is unchangeable. One thing to relieve stress is to be mindful and vigilant about our surroundings. Being able to appreciate the sights and sounds around us and living in the present is also very liberating for most people. Immersing in music. Much research has been done regarding the relationship between listening to music and feeling less stressed. Listening to soothing music is a great way to curb stressful thoughts. Music that tends to be closer to the sounds of nature is usually played at recreational places and restaurants. A person can compile his or her favorite playlist to feel stress-free while listening to it. Deep breathing. Deep breathing is one of the most common relaxation techniques and is also a precursor to many other activities that relieve stress. It can be done anywhere and any time of the day. It is simple, yet a powerful technique to ward off stress. The best way to deep breathe is to put one hand on the abdomen and the other on your chest. Inhale via your nose in such a way that the hand on the abdomen should move out and the one on the chest should move a little. Exhale through the mouth. This technique should help a person take deeper breaths from the abdomen rather than taking short bouts of breath through the chest. This instantly relieves stress and calms down the nerves. Chapter 25. Deep breathing exercises to lower stress levels. Visualization. This relaxation technique requires the person to sit at a quiet and peaceful place and to imagine the most appealing place and scenarios in such a way that at least 3 of his senses are made use of while imagining the scenario. It is okay to get drifting thoughts and to get zoned out from the present when you are imagining an environment that can relax you. The more vivid the imagination, the better this technique works. Progressive muscle relaxation. This exercise requires the person to stretch and relax various muscles of the body in a quiet and peaceful environment. A person can stretch his or her hands, arms, and toes away from the body and then relax them. Similarly, forehead muscles can be relaxed by first making a frowning face and then relieving the muscle pressure. It also requires the person to take deep breaths. It should be done for 20 minutes every day. Yoga. Yoga is a stress buster claimed by many. It is believed to help release tension and make a person calmer and less anxious. It's not necessary to join a yoga club to reap its benefits, and neither is it required to practice it for a long period of time in order to ward off stress. Simple yoga moves learned through the internet can be very helpful in relieving stress. A person can practice mild to moderate yoga moves for around 15 to 20 minutes in order to feel invigorated every day. More relaxation techniques. Some other activities and relaxation techniques that take less than 5 minutes and can be done at any time of the day include eating and drinking aromatic and healthy food, meditation, getting massages at spas, exercises, and taking a stroll in a park. Creating a routine. It is vital that no matter what activity the person takes up as a relaxation technique, the key is to not focus too hard on it, as it should not require a lot of focus and hard work on part of the person who indulges in it. A difficult relaxation technique defeats its own purpose. Therefore, a person can try a number of activities, out of which he or she can choose the one which relieves the stress the most. After selecting such a relaxation technique, he or she should practice it daily for an allotted time. There are uncountable activities that can be counted as stress reduction techniques. Relaxation techniques aim to lower blood pressure, fatigue, heart rate, anger, and frustration, along with improving hormone levels, concentration span, and reducing mood swings, muscle tension, and pain. Relaxation techniques for anxiety and stress, along with maintaining a positive outlook, can render great mental, emotional, and physical benefits for any person. Easy ways to avoid stress. Behavioral techniques. Usually, stress management is strictly linked to a program of behavioral techniques to provide people mental tranquility. Fitness seems to be a good way to reduce stress, offering correctional tools in overcoming the effects of stress. Internal tranquility. Physical exercises also produce important psychological benefits, including both depression and anxiety reduction. Meditation and yoga seem to be really useful methods to reduce stress and to provide both relaxation in the entire body and internal tranquility. Relationships, but relaxation exercises. A durable sense of relaxation seems also due to the development of positive social relationships, but relaxation exercises are the most important tools that individuals can use to reduce stress. All psychologists suggest we start with a few simple exercises, including walking, running, swimming, and bicycling. Doctors also recommend weight loss and, obviously, regular exercises as the first steps both in treating and reducing anxiety and stress. Chapter 26. Health and Stress Management. Stress management is not only an urgent need in today's fast-paced lifestyle, but an important factor in both physical and mental health. It is a psychological approach which teaches people skills to cope with anxiety and stress. It is all about understanding where your stress is coming from and finding ways to alleviate it, and also to manage your life so that it becomes easier and more enjoyable. Stress management is the application of methods to either reduce stress or increase tolerance to stress. To be the most effective, it needs to be practiced regularly. Managing stress means our ability to maintain control when situations, people, and events make excessive demands on us. It is a key to happiness. It is your ability to effectively manage the pressures you feel at work and at home. It is about knowing your limits. A complete nutritional approach, combined with proper fitness maintenance and stress management, is most important. Stress management is the application of methods to either reduce stress or increase tolerance to stress. Here's why managing your stress is important. Stress wears your body out and can kill you. Workplace stress management is a great way of making sure that you can get through the workday in peace and then go home with little or no stress weighing on your mind. The key to stress management is to determine the right amount of stress that will give you energy, ambition, and enthusiasm versus the wrong amount which can harm your health and well-being. One of the first rules of effective stress management is positive thinking and behavior. Exactly how exercise helps in relaxation and stress management is not clear. At work, stress management is a breeze when you let employees take on tasks that fit their skill and interest. Another strategy for stress management is to live in the moment, but it is not about putting yourself first at the expense of your family and clients. Fortunately, stress management is largely a learnable skill. Stress. Stress is your response to any physical, emotional, or intellectual demands. Stress management includes following a healthy diet, getting regular exercise, and making time for uninterrupted relaxation. Nutrition is one area where stress can be reduced most effectively because we eat every day at least 3 times a day. So even the smallest of changes could bring about significant benefits. Stress is a normal part of life. It is an unavoidable consequence of life, and it is not something exclusive of human beings because animals also have it. Stress is the answer of the body in response to external conditions that are perceived as dangerous, worrying, or irritating. Although we cannot eliminate stress, we can all do a better job in managing it. Symptoms of stress can be either behavioral or physical, and some people who have a chronic illness may find that the symptoms of their illness flare up under an overload of stress. In the alternative, if stress is more the result of one's lifestyle, eliminating the stress-causing factors and/or gaining healthful insight on how to alleviate stress the right way might just be the best thing for an individual to do for themselves. More recently, however, it has been argued that external circumstances do not have any intrinsic capacity to produce stress, but instead their effect is mediated by the individual's perceptions, capacities, and understanding. The model breaks the stressor-stress link by proposing that if stressors are perceived as positive or challenging rather than a threat, and if the stressed person is confident that he or she possesses adequate rather than deficient coping strategies, stress may not necessarily follow the presence of a potential stressor. The model conceptualizes stress as a result of how a stressor is appraised and how a person appraises his or her resources to cope with the stressor. The model proposes that stress can be reduced by helping stressed people change their perceptions of stressors, providing them with strategies to help them cope and improving their confidence in their ability to do so. Anxiety. Anxiety is stress, tension, and strain brought into one's body and mind. Anxiety may be due to the feeling that one is not in control. These symptoms may manifest themselves psychologically as irritability, anxiety, impaired concentration, mental confusion, poor judgment, frustration, and anger. We are aware that people that suffer from anxiety disorders have problems mixing in social gatherings. It is found that online chat forums and even voice chat can be an excellent way to deal with anxieties because one avoids one of the big things many people with social anxiety are afraid of, meeting people. Stress-related disorders include a broad array of conditions, including depression, anxiety, dissatisfaction, fatigue, tension, aggression, substance abuse, impairment in concentration, and memory problems. Tranquilizers, antidepressants, and anti-anxiety medications account for 1/4 of all prescriptions written in the USA. Exercise can help to relieve stress, tension, and anxiety. By expelling your excess negative emotions and adrenaline through physical activity, you can enter a more relaxed, calm state of being from which to deal with the issues and conflicts that are causing your anxiety. Exercise is one of the most important coping media to combat anxiety and stress. Exercise may trigger a neurophysiologic high, a shot of adrenaline or endorphins that produces an antidepressant effect. In some people, it will create an anti-anxiety effect. In others, a general sense of feeling better. Frequent exercise is an effective treatment for anxiety and, according to some research, is as effective as psychotherapy in treating mild or moderate depression. In various studies, researchers have found that exercise can decrease anxiety and depression, improve an individual's self-image, and buffer people from the effects of stress. Other researchers have found that light exercise, such as walking or swimming, decreases anxiety just as effectively as vigorous jogging does. If you suffer from physical symptoms of anxiety, such as gastrointestinal problems, sweating, palpitations, pacing back and forth, etc. On the other hand, if your anxiety is caused by psychological causes, such as worrying, difficulty concentrating, or intrusive thoughts, you may find more relief from mental exercises such as meditation, imagery, prayer, or other forms of mental relaxation. Exercising too much may lead to a state of fatigue characterized by anxiety or depression, insomnia, and a loss of interest in personal life. Symptoms. Symptoms of stress can be either behavioral or physical. Symptoms of despair and hopelessness may be experienced in acute stress disorder and may be sufficiently severe and persistent to meet criteria for a major depressive episode. Symptoms of acute stress disorder are experienced during or immediately after the trauma, last for at least 2 days, and either resolve within 4 weeks after the conclusion of the traumatic event or the diagnosis is changed. These symptoms may manifest themselves psychologically as irritability, anxiety, impaired concentration, mental confusion, poor judgment, frustration, and anger. Some people who have a chronic illness may find that the symptoms of their illness flare up under an overload of stress. If the stress symptoms persist during many days, it is reasonable to go see a doctor or to request psychological support. Common physical symptoms of stress include muscle tension, headaches, low back pain, insomnia, and high blood pressure. Lifestyle. Effective stress management is a lifestyle, and we must learn to incorporate it into our daily lives. A commitment to live a healthier lifestyle should never take a backseat. In the alternative, if stress is more the result of one's lifestyle, eliminating the stress-causing factors and/or gaining helpful insight on how to alleviate stress the right way might just be the best thing for an individual to do for themselves. Stress management is vital to being successful at work and living a healthy lifestyle. Stress management is steadily increasing in importance due to today's busy and demanding lifestyles. Chapter 27. Low-stress ways to move house. Tips for a stress-free move. 1. Get organized in advance. If you leave everything until the last minute, it will be stressful. We sold our house 5 months before we left, and then rented it back from the new owner. That way, we could relax with the cash in our bank account and not worry about how we were going to finance the move. 2. Start selling non-essential items 3 months before you leave. Clutter and things you don't use much build up in any house, especially if you have kids. You'll find that there are plenty of things you can offload 2 or 3 months before your move. Stuff like toys, tools, kitchen equipment, many clothes, and everything that's broken or that you never use but have been saving for a rainy day. 3. Organize your personal belongings and paperwork. Get a concertina folder for essential documents like passports, birth certificates, and other certificates, and keep them all together. Sort out your personal photos, put them in albums, and chuck out all the blurred and boring ones. Give all the kids a memory box. A shoebox will be about the right size for them to keep all their school reports, photos, pictures, and keepsakes in. Keep the box small. They will fill it. 4. Maximize this opportunity to minimalize. There's no point in keeping too much stuff if you're making a big move. Sending it overseas may cost more than replacing it, and this is the ideal time to become more minimalist and get rid of all the possessions that are compromising your freedom. Make a list of everything you want to sell but need to keep until you leave. furniture, and big electrical items such as the fridge, washing machine, stereo, and dryer. Write an email with the title, description, and price. Just sell everything for half what you bought it for. Remember, you want to get rid of it. Now email this to all friends and colleagues who live nearby. I predict a feeding frenzy. Print out the email, ask people to commit to buying something, and add their name by the item. Ask them to swing by on moving day and pick it up. Simple, yet effective, and your friends will be delighted. 5. Have a huge garage sale for smaller items. Think of it as being paid to clean out your house and declutter your life. Again, remember to sell everything for a low price because your main aim is to get rid of stuff. If you're not comfortable making money from selling your old clothes, toys, crockery, and books, then mention in the garage sale ad that all proceeds will go to a worthy cause, like Guampedia or your favorite charity. By now, your house, cupboards, and garage should be looking nice and empty, which will make cleaning easier. Don't pack or store any breakables unless they have sentimental value or are not replaceable. Things like crockery and glasses can be picked up when you get there. 6. Packing. You can start packing up things you're taking early, too. Buy a big roll of bubble wrap, masking tape, cardboard corners for pictures, and some tea chests from removal companies. Then pack a few things each night or blitz the lot in one day. Give the kids one small box each for the toys they want to keep. This will focus them on not overpacking and on getting rid of everything they don't need anymore. Tell them you'll use some of the proceeds from selling their old stuff to fund a great family outing from your new home. 7. Moving day. When your friends come round to collect all the stuff they bought, offer them all the crockery and glasses you needed until the last moment. If they don't want it, ask them to drop it off at a charity shop for you. They'll be so pleased with the great deals they got from you, they'll be happy to oblige. Finally, have a good cleanup or use some of your garage sale money to hire a cleaner. Boom! You're out of there. With less clutter tying you down, the world is your oyster. Just imagine if you were really good and got rid of it all. You'd be free as a bird. If you're like me, you'll enjoy the process of clearing out and moving house. Plus, it's great knowing that your friends will think of you every time they open that beautiful old trunk you spent weeks restoring. Chapter 28. Ways to use visualization for stress management. Whatever you give your attention to gets bigger. I can't remember the first time I heard this. It might have been from my mother, who isn't one to stew or dwell, or an early yoga teacher, or an old book. I know it was during my teenage years, at a time when I was probably stewing and dwelling a lot on things that maybe didn't really matter all that much in the grand scheme of things. Stewing is understandable. It's what teenagers, and the rest of us, do all the time. But I had an early sense that looping thoughts and unproductive lines of mental inquiry could and should somehow be avoided. Easier said than done, obviously. This early lesson was my first clue as to how. But what exactly are we talking about? The idea is simple, and it doesn't require flaky hocus-pocus thinking to accept. Simply, whatever you focus on, good, bad, stressful, pleasant, anxiety-provoking, calming, and exciting, is amplified in the mind. It takes up space. It grows. Put even more simply, whatever you're thinking about, you're thinking about. If that thing is bad, then you have bad in your head. If that thing is good, you have good in your head. None of this would matter, of course, if we saw everything as it really is. But we don't. We have a single sticky thought and then launch a search and capture mission in our mind looking for other things that support that original one. As we do this, the idea pile-on grows, and the next thing you know it, that silly, fleeting thought has pitched a tent in our mind and won't budge, Occupy style. Unfortunately, we do this more with negative thoughts than the positive ones. Let's call this, gently, a not very productive way to use our brains. But here's the good news. The process that can make us miserable can also be flipped on its head to cultivate joy, compassion, peace, and love if we do it right. We know our thoughts affect our feelings, and our feelings affect our physical body. They can trigger stress hormones, aggravate chronic pain, promote inflammation, disrupt sleep, trigger breakouts. The list goes on. And nothing on that list is awesome. On the flip side, focusing deliberately and carefully on positive things can have an opposite effect. I was reminded about this recently when I was struggling with looping thoughts. As anyone who's been there, all of you, knows, you can get exactly nowhere in that state of mind. Of course, anyone who's been there, again, all of you, knows that when you're in that state of mind, it can be very hard to rip yourself from it and say, "Okay, stupid thought, I'm not going to think you anymore. Instead, I'm going to think about what I want, what I'm happy about, what I'm grateful for." But as with all good habits, this one is self-perpetuating. The more you force yourself to do it, kicking and screaming, faking it until you make it, the more you see it works, and then the more likely you are to keep doing it. An important point here. This is not like The Secret, and not about changing the course of events with your brain. We can't do that, unfortunately. And sometimes bad things do happen. But thinking about them all the time can't stop that. So this trains your mind to quiet down in the face of things you can't control, everything, and cultivate some good feelings while you're at it. Whatever you give your attention to gets bigger. Trust us, it's true. Now, what to do about it? There are a million ways to practice visualization, and it has many different applications. Here are 5 I like. 1. Mentally rehearse positive outcomes. This is big with athletes and can have a very practical application, or be an example of magical thinking, see below, depending on how you use it. Good yoga teachers will tell you to spend months literally visualizing the steps to get into a headstand, a challenging pose, no question, before you actually try to get upside down in the middle of the room. When I first learned it, my teacher wouldn't let us practice against the wall because it would set us up with a crutch, she said. Instead, we had to picture a headstand step by step until we could do it. Similarly, a University of Chicago study looked at how mental rehearsing, as it's sometimes called, might help basketball players with their free throws. The results were unequivocal, with visualizers sinking the ball way more than the controls. Professional athletes talk about this, and Olympians too. The scientific explanation seems to be that repeatedly thinking about doing something creates neural patterns in the brain for that action, a blueprint, if you will. Your brain then trains your body to execute that thing because it already knows how to. Crazy and true. 2. Picture what you want. Of course, if the outcome you're looking for is of the more interpersonal nature, about your career or your kids or your husband or wife, it doesn't work the same way. You can train your brain all you want, but when there are other people involved, all bets are off, right? Well, sort of. I'm a big believer in creating the conditions for the outcome you want. You can't make magic happen, maybe, but you can create the right conditions for things to happen. And part of that, for me, is focusing on positive thoughts, what I want as opposed to what I'm scared of. Alexandra and I are both really keen on this. To do it, simply picture what you want. Not just having it, but getting it. Really imagine, with your eyes closed and your mind focused, what it would feel like to have that thing, or what it would feel like not to have to worry about that other thing. Put yourself there and think about what it looks like, feels like, smells like. Set a scene and give it your attention, and then go back to it often. 3. Imagine thoughts shrinking or growing. When I have a thought that won't budge and is stressing me out, I like to name it. Oh, hey, mean thought that is telling me I will never be a prima ballerina, and then picture it in a circle in my mind, almost like a sign that's been tacked up for me to read. I picture the thought I don't like, and then I picture the circle shrinking slowly until it's a speck instead of a menacing, pulsating globe of badness. Similarly, if I want to cultivate something positive, like peace of mind, or the feeling that everything is as it should be, then I do the same, only I start small and picture it growing in my mind until it takes up all the space I can imagine. This fills me with a feeling of well-being that is indescribable. I'm not sure why, but I trust it. Do the white light thing. We're getting increasingly weird here. Okay, so this one is just what it sounds like. Call to mind a thought, a circumstance, a person, an illness, anything that is giving you a little bit of a headache right now, and really hold that person or idea in your mind. Focus on it like you're studying a map. Look at it and identify what it looks like. Try as best as you can not to think about it, but just see it in your mind. Then you get out your magic white light wand and tap your thought 3 times, basking it in white light. If you want to pick another color, feel free. Whatever color signifies peace and healing to you is the color to pick here. Bask that thing in light like your life depends on it. Then when you're done, do it again. 5. Picture a person you see as an evolved being and stare at them. This can be your grandpa or your guru, your lover or your childhood best friend, anyone who to you represents peace or wisdom or love. Maybe it's someone who loves you unconditionally or a spiritual guide. I was taught this by one of my teachers, and he recommends picking someone you actually know or have come into contact with, as opposed to someone sort of remote like Gandhi or the Virgin Mary, unless, of course, you've met them. Picture them sitting in front of you at eye level and just give them a gander. Look at the outline of their body and their eyes and their face. Smile at them, maybe. Hold them in your mind for a few minutes, and then, when you're done, say thank you. Conclusion and learning to live a stress-free life. The last piece of this puzzle is then to learn how to make these changes stick and how to live a stress-free life. The most important thing here is learning how to cope with a quieter existence. If you're someone who is used to a fast pace of living, then slowing down can actually be quite jarring and hard at first. What's more, things can easily creep back up and get on top of you again, so you need to be strict when it comes to keeping your new lifestyle the way it is. Is your new lifestyle sustainable? One important thing to consider at this point is whether your new lifestyle is going to be sustainable. In other words, there's no point in making all these changes if you can't stick to them. Reducing your lifestyle to be easier to manage and to be less stressful will only work if you also ensure that the changes aren't so drastic that you can't keep up with them. Make sure you aren't inadvertently increasing your workload, and make sure that you aren't impacting negatively on other areas. For instance, if you're taking up a new training program to try and increase your energy levels and combat stress, then you need to ensure that this new workout routine isn't going to be so tiring that it takes up all your available energy. Likewise, if you're cutting back on your clients, make sure that you aren't putting yourself at risk by having all your eggs in one basket. And ensure that you are looking at how this is going to impact on your income. In short, if the change you're making isn't realistically sustainable, then you should reconsider making it and probably forget it. Enjoying your free time. Finally, you also need to make sure that you are properly enjoying all that new free time. Overcoming your stress addiction and making lasting changes means knowing how to make the most of the time you have off. In turn, this will mean taking on new hobbies and throwing yourself into them, and it should mean knowing how to completely let go and sometimes just rest. This is a skill in itself, and if you've been working too hard for years, then it's one you will have to relearn. Conclusion. And with that, we part ways. Using all the tips and tricks in this book, you should now have the skills and the knowledge necessary to start reducing the stress in your life and to begin dealing with the stress that's left a little better. To recap on everything we've learned and condense it into a bite-sized format, here's what you will be doing going forward. Assess whether you may have a stress addiction. Create a list of all the sources of stress in your life. Break the big causes of stress down into their small constituents. What about work do you find stressful? Find ways to tick off each of the different sources of stress where possible. Do this by quitting if necessary. Otherwise, look at using automation and outsourcing. Think about lifestyle design and the ultimate expression of this, a passive income model. Use Pareto's Law, the Pomodoro technique, and rewards to better organize your remaining workload. Eat a healthy diet. Look after your sleep. Get exercise. Learn CBT and meditation and use these to reduce acute stress responses. Learn how to switch off and enjoy your free time. Ultimately, the goal should be to look at your happiness and your peace of mind as the key objective for all your hard work. Remember that you work to live and not vice versa. If your job or anything else is getting in the way of that, then you need to look at changing it, and you need to find ways to help yourself cope better. And the reward for all your hard work and all these changes, you'll be happier, more relaxed, more productive, more creative, and even your relationships will benefit. Remove all your stress and what's left? Relaxation, fun, and happiness. So what are you waiting for? This has been Stress Relief Bible, a step-by-step guide for quick stress relief, anxiety, anger, frustration, self-sabotage. Written by Dr. Michelle Smith. Narrated by Rich McVicker. Copyright 2016 by Michelle Smith. Production copyright 2016 by Michelle Smith.
Audible hopes you have enjoyed this program.